Good night, Barbados. When the people rise up, when the people rise up, the powers must fall. All we've got to do is stand up. All we've got to do is stand up. Good night, everybody who's watching. Those who are locked down throughout the region, the Caribbean region. People are locked down, not just in Barbados, but they're locked down throughout the region. Good night to everybody. Who is there? Ramim, good night. I've been reading y'all's comments since we started. Reading the comments. Somebody wrote, Epic has been on since 419 says going cashless would mean going digital, and we lack the security infrastructure to manage digital data. We're going to talk about that a little later, man. Epic have one thing on his mind. He came on early and he said what he had to say. Oh, Ramim. Blessings, loyal, patriotic opposition. Like the canes in these fields and hills, keep the fire under the feet of the hired representatives as actions and character trumped empty words. Join opposition, rescue and restore BIM. Guys, as you are logging on, and I'm asking you to like. The big question is, have you liked yet? Have you shared yet? This is good. Tonight is going to be very, very powerful, because we are going to talk about some people who decided, not just the people that you're going to see, but a whole group of people with them that decided that, listen, we are not going to sit and wait on anybody to change our situation. We're going to get it changed. Love it. Oh, my Lord. And one is from Trinidad, one from Barbados. And INSHAN ISHMAEL is going to be on very, very soon. He tells me I'm logging on in 3 minutes, and he'll be on soon. Ramin says we're going to stand while you can. Lions rise. Lions rise. Yes. So we are here for this. Ramin, persistent protest, sound science and legal knowledge slew Olive Lodge Road residents Goliath. How much more can citizens achieve for this nation following the same united, consistent action? Fall in line, opposition. There we go. That's it. When the people rise up, it's called people power. People power. So we have the 246 power, and we have the 868 power. All right. So they're coming on very soon. But as we normally do, I can't greet everybody tonight, right? I can't. Throughout the show, I'm going to mention you all because my guest is here already. So what we're going to do, we're going to go right into our national anthem as you continue to share and you continue to like, all right? And I trust me, we're going to have a great, great, great show tonight. I want you to share. I want you to like. I want you to let people know that we're on and that tonight is going to be really, really amazing. So we're getting getting our anthem. You know, we don't start without the anthem, because the anthem, that is really, really, really what we're about. It's about Barbados. It's about this country. And tonight we're going to see how the region is coming together to fight these Goliaths. All right. So let's get ready for the national anthem.
Who
Correct, correct, correct. Strict guardians of our heritage. That's who we are, and that's why we come on every single evening that we are on. Sundays, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, 7 o'clock. We are on, and we are repping 246. Barbados is a 246 power. That is what we are representing. But tonight we have someone from Trinidad with us, Mr. INSHAN. INSHAN, I'm saying Ishnan, but it's INSHAN ISHMAEL. And he is ready to join us tonight. I'm making sure that I have the right spelling of his name. Let me just welcome Mr. Ishmael. Welcome, sir.
Hi, good evening to all your viewers and listeners throughout the Caribbean. It's it's quite interesting to be joining Barbados, especially on an issue like this. But of course, Barbados, like every other Caribbean country, is close to my heart. It's indeed a pleasure being on board.
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure having you here. You know, we have been doing a lot of pushback in Barbados because I don't know if you know, but we had a 30-0 government, okay? And
Yes.
so for a while we had no opposition. We just had somebody, it's not even 3 weeks yet, that crossed the floor and formed the opposition. So we have been pushing back and trying our best to push back and to be the opposition. And so when we heard of what was happening in Trinidad, it's a pushback of a different type, but it's very, 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 very similar. Now, you are, let's just establish to our audience exactly who Mr. Ishmael is. So, Mr. Ishmael, you're a businessman in Trinidad. Can you tell us just a little bit about what you do in Trinidad?
Well, I own several businesses. I have a restaurant. I have a company that deals with pickup parts. We ship to Barbados as well. I own a TV station here in Trinidad and Tobago too as well. A social activist. In fact, I have been a social activist since I was 19 years. I've been arrested 7 times and I've won. And I've won. Yeah, I've been arrested 7 times and I've won every single case against the state. And the state has had to pay me. In fact, the last case I won 300,000+ Trinidad dollars as well. So every single case I've won so far where the state is concerned. So you're talking to someone who doesn't just talk, but I actually walk the talk. And quite frankly, in 2007, there was a murder in Trinidad and Tobago, and it rocked the country where Vindra Naipal, one of the top businesswomen in Trinidad and Tobago, she was kidnapped and murdered. And I called for a national shutdown together with my team, and approximately 95% of Trinidad and Tobago shut down over that. It was the first time in history that a country shut down to that level. So therefore, myself and my team, we have quite a lot of influence. We have a lot of backing too as well. And the politicians have a habit of listening to us here.
Yeah, we listen, this is inspiring us in Barbados, especially when we have one person, one thank God for Mr. Thorne there in the opposition. But then I keep telling the people there are 280,000 of us out here, and we are going to stand up for our country, stand up for our rights, stand up just for being a person, being human. So can you give us the backstory to this KFC boycott? Because I've been in Trinidad and KFC is almost like KFC is a national dish. So how did we get to this point of a KFC boycott?
Well, basically, there was a post purporting to come from one of the family members of the owners of Prestige Holding. Now, there has been no 100% agreement that it came from him, but there has been no counteraction from the family to say that they distance themselves from this individual and the post. So therefore, something as disgusting as this, which labeled, one of our national dishes, doubles, which everybody comes in and loves in Trinidad and Tobago, it described the people who sell doubles and the dish itself in a very insulting manner. But that is just part of the story. For years, fast food outlets have been taking advantage of us. For example, you go 1 minute and they tell you that they don't have condiments and you have to buy the condiments now. And then you're accustomed buying a family pack. And when you go, you get 8 pieces of chicken and a fries, and all of a sudden you have to choke because they take away the drink. So we realize these conglomerates, these franchises, they come in and they do what they want, how they want, whenever they want. And it does not only boil down to that. We have a case where in Trinidad and Tobago, we have been laughing at Guyana for years, and that is a fact. Trinidadians were laughing and say, wait, boy, Guyana, you have to pay $18 for bread. In Trinidad and Tobago, we are paying $21 now. So who's laughing now? So
Wow.
when you look at all these things coming together, and then you're looking at KFC putting out, Prestige Holdings putting out a release, distancing themselves from, the statements that were made, but yet it is no one from the family distancing themselves and saying that, no, that is not our family, that is not a member of our family, that is, it causes us to react a certain way. So
Yeah.
we have decided that, look, we're going to go full force. And there are many photos showing that KFC branches that are normally packed, now literally empty. So it is having a fantastic impact. And it is the first time that Trinidad and Tobago has stood on an issue after 2007.
I am smiling, and let me just read for our audience exactly what it's alleged that this family member who they would be, well, they run KFC in Trinidad. Okay, so it's an
Yes.
allegation. It came out. We have it here. Here it came out actually on this person's Facebook page. It's Alex Moutet.
Yes, Alex Moté. It's French, Moté.
Mute.
Yes.
And is it known that they have a member of the family by that name?
Yes, that is correct. As far as we're aware, yes.
As far as you're aware. Okay. So
Yes.
and the post says Barbados, it says at least KFC invest in infrastructure. The doubles man sets up a 200 MDF. What's that?
MDF is a type of wood or a type of material used for cabinets and for cupboards. So it's a compressed structure of wood. It's like plywood. Yeah, it's like plywood. So when they say MDF, it's a type of material used for building cabinets and for putting up shops and things, basically.
Oh, so he's basically saying the double man sets up a $200 board box with ice cream buckets of chana under a tent next to a dirty drain and saves the money for bottle of puncheon or who knows what, or saves their money. Okay, so they don't put up an infrastructure. Instead, they save their money for a bottle of puncheon, which is a drink.
Yeah, which is about 90% alcohol. But what is interesting is that, to look at that statement, and as I said before, and this is to cover yourself and myself, when you look at the allegations and the statements which were purportedly attributed to a family member, it is interesting to note, but a lot of KFC branches, they don't own the property that they own. They actually lease the property. And to say that the doubles men are by the drain, every one of them, this is totally false again. And not only that, when you look at the doubles men and you look at their homes and you look at their cars, these people live well. They enjoy a comfortable life. In fact, I have a neighbor who is a doubles man, one of the most popular doubles men in Trinidad and Tobago, and he has about 6 vehicles. He's going all over the place. He's liming. He doesn't drink. He relaxes with his family. I mean, he enjoys a good life. So therefore, there is this impression. And I will let you know something, that in Trinidad and Tobago, it is impossible to get US currency. My company, we bring in diabetic strips to help the poor. The only reason we do that, it is to help the poor. And we have not gotten US currency. $16,000 we have not gotten in the last 6 months.
Wow.
But these franchises come in and they can use up all the US, because remember, when a franchise goes into Barbados or Trinidad or wherever, they have to pay their fees in US currency. So you have these big conglomerates coming out, and people like myself who can't get US but the conglomerates and their families and their friends using up all the US currency, and we are suffering. And I am one of those. In fact, we have decided that we will be taking central bank to court too as well in regards to this whole foreign exchange issue.
Yeah, because I mean, the smaller business are suffering. Let me just go on and read a little bit more of this this note, this post that is allegedly attributed to this family member. How you have millionaire doubles man and not a single one has actually rented a structure or reinvested their profits to upgrading their business. Same with roti. Spanish come and start food business and have brand new building, and roti sellers haven't painted their building in 30 years, selling food out of a rat hole. Now, when a statement like that is made, regardless of who makes a statement, what's the impact? You're a businessman. What kind of impact do you think that will have on the doubles man and on the roti man's business?
Absolutely none. In fact, Trinidad and Tobago now rallying with the doubles man and the roti man. So their business booming now. I want to ask you a question because you are a sensible woman. I want to ask you a question. If you have a business where you need to only operate 4 hours a day and earn that income for 4 hours a day, and you have access to a temporary place where you don't have to pay rent, you don't have to pay electricity, you don't have to paint a building, what are you going to do? Not use that option?
Of course, you've got in business, you're going to lower your costs, okay? And you're not going to be, you don't want to expend all of this time and energy on something that you don't need. If you don't need to, you're going to make sure your cost and your time, there's a cost on your time. So if you only need to work for 4 hours, then you work for 4 hours. So basically, they are actually doing business. The doubles man is doing business, real business.
Well, most of the business runs from home, meaning that the doubles man and the doubles woman would get up at 3 a.m., do their prep, and that would be from 3 to about 6, and then from 6 to about 10, they will go the road and they're finished. So therefore, what sense does it make one invest in infrastructure when it's not needed? So therefore, the doubles people are smarter. I mean, KFC opens their branches from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. and in some cases 24 hours. So one can understand why they need brick and mortar stores. But the doubles man does not need a brick and mortar stores. In fact, when you look at this whole scenario and how it develops, it's not only in KFC alone. For example, yesterday we found out that one of the other competitors, Royal Castle, decided that they would raise their prices. But what they did, they started to charge separately for ketchup, separately for mustard, separately for pepper sauce. And this is how they operate. And I mean, really and truly, Trinidadians have been taken advantage of. We have had the bread price go up time and time again. Trinidad is the only country that I know in the Caribbean. If you have a slice of bread on your lap and you crash in your car and you do not have an airbag, you are safe, because the amount of air in that airbag, in that bread, you don't need an airbag.
I love Trinidad. You guys are hilarious. You guys are hilarious. So tell me something. How did this KFC boycott? Are people actually? I mean, I saw some pictures where it looks a bit empty, but I mean, people are actually doing it. Are actually boycotting.
Well, I'll tell you something. In everything, in everything, there are those who will step up to do it. There are those who may think about doing it. And then there are those who will say, we're not doing it. And Trinidad and Tobago is no different from any other part of the Caribbean or the world. And what we have found is it has led to a tremendous amount of success, because what we have found is that when pictures are posted, there are no pictures posted to say otherwise. So in other words, when someone posts and say KFC in Debe is empty, the people who are not supporting the boycott, not posting, look it full, you're lying. We are not seeing that. So therefore, there's a lot of truth into what is being posted. And not only that, the success shows in every single branch. So Trinidadians are banding together. I mean, we have so much issues in the country. Look, for example, we can no longer use a hose. We can no longer use a hose to wet our plants or wash our cars because we have no water. And that is something that has been going on since 1960. We never banded together for that. We never banded for billions of dollars in fraud and corruption, but we are banding together for KFC. So KFC is more important than crime. KFC is more important than water. KFC is more important than electricity. KFC is more important than healthcare. You could go in a hospital and wait 3 years for an MRI, but if you get a KFC late, that is a problem.
That's a problem. I know. That's why this is why I had to get somebody on the show to talk about this KFC boycott, because Trinidadians, Trinis love their KFC, and to believe that they would boycott that, and so they're buying more doubles and more roti and more local food. I told you when we were talking a couple of days ago that when I get into Trinidad, as soon as I get off the plane, and if it's in the morning, I get up and then I make a left. And that left is to get my doubles. And anybody that travels with me to Trinidad, the first thing I tell them about is doubles, not KFC. It's doubles. So this is. But how long do you think this boycott is going to go on for?
Honestly, no one can say, but I can tell you something. There are people like myself, and I say this not because I want to pat myself on the shoulder, but because I have factual data to prove such. And what am I saying? I am one of the more influential persons in the country. And during the COVID, we distributed 45,000 hampers. Those hampers consisted of foodstuff, which were given to us by members of the public and businesses. Not only that, I had mentioned this to you before. When Dominica had their hurricane, I took a private plane together with a friend of mine, and we flew to Dominica, and we awaited a barge, a 50,000-ton barge, and the Dominican government actually, applauded us for the largest single contribution. Not only that, when Haiti had their hurricane, we were the first to send 7 containers. So therefore, the reason I'm mentioning this is because there are many things that I do which leads to success. And when I ask people to support, I normally get support. I could go on my program. My program is tonight at 8 p.m. And I could go on my program, and somebody I would bring into my program who needs surgery. And in less than 15 minutes time, I could get all the money required for surgery. This is it. And that has been, if you search the archives, besides looking at all the arrests, you will see that and I'm not kidding you. When we were distributing hampers, they came and arrested me for distributing hampers.
Oh, because you were distributing the hampers during COVID when it's supposed to be a lockdown.
Right. No, but the thing is that we have a compound with 8 acres where we were looking after people, and the compound was locked, and people gathered outside the compound, and I got arrested.
Oh my goodness. And the people came for food.
Yeah, exactly. And it was one of the most disgusting things. And we have one of my first arrests, and in fact this is something that is interesting. In 2007, when we were to shut down the country, I was arrested. 20 officers came to my home, arrested me, and charged me that night under the anti-terrorism laws. Right? Now, I want you to listen to this carefully. My attorney was soon to be the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago. He came, Alen Logan, and a battery of attorneys. People gathered in Port of Spain because they realized that this was ridiculous. I stayed overnight in the station. I was stripped, right? I was stripped and searched. And the next morning, when they read the charge was I was charged for printing a flyer without the printer's name.
I don't understand that charge. And you were stripped and searched.
Yeah, and I won that case as well. So when you look at my history for standing up, the problem is that when you arrest someone, and this is a lesson for the Bajans, they will come after you. If we were to look in the past, you will see under the SIA, the Security Intelligence Agency, or the SSA, you would have seen that my phone was one of the phones that were tapped and it was made public. And one of the things that I want to tell Bajans, no matter what they do, if they come after you and they lock you up, if they arrest you, if they charge you, do not cower, do not back down. Stand up, because your children have to inherit your country. And you have a great country, right? So therefore, do not back down. Some people, when they see police come, they will run. I don't, but because number one, I'm a businessman, I'm well respected. I have one of the highest viewed TV shows in the country. So the fact is that I don't do things for fame. I don't do things for money. I had one of the largest contracts for the Ministry of National Security in Trinidad and Tobago. We would service police vehicles, and then when I started to expose fraud, that contract was taken away from me. So
I tell you, it's like you live in Barbados. The only thing that is different about you is your fearlessness. And there's a man that is coming on now, Mr. Franklin. I was hoping he would have come on earlier to meet you. You sound like him. But this is amazing. This is amazing. And I am just astounded to believe that Trinis, they are actually standing up and saying, no, you can't speak like this about other, somebody else's business, because you have made how many millions did KFC say they made
KFC earned over $1 billion. Prestige Holdings, the group, the franchise group, earned over $1 billion, $1 billion, and
1 billion.
1 billion in terms of total earnings. I think profits, I stand corrected, is maybe about 400,000 or 500,000. And you can imagine out of that how much has to go back to the franchise holders. So Trinidadians love fast food. We live off of fried food, as bad as it is. But the fact is that if fried food is what it takes to bring us all together, then I say bring on the fried food.
Yes. And you're standing up. And if you were to itemize exactly why the boycott is, so somebody who's can you just summarize really, what this boycott was really all about? Because it's present tense, it's still going on.
Well. Basically, I could tell you that when you look at the reality of statements being made and statements which were used to attack the doubles men, and it was purported to have come from a family member of the franchise holder. That's the allegation. The fact is that it was an insult to the people who sell doubles, and it has been boiling for a while, because that was the icing on the cake. Because we had issues before. When you bought chicken, you would get a pigeon in some cases, where the quality of the food, you had no recourse or little recourse. You had KFC taking away your condiments and then charging you for it afterwards. You had KFC giving you one meal in one pit here, and then all of a sudden what you get is totally different. So the reason why this went over was simply because, honestly, that post and the attachment to the franchise holder, whether it be factual or not, it caused some serious concerns. And that is why up to now, we have not had a family member distancing themselves and saying that is a fake profile, that is a fake post. I have not personally seen anything.
Wow. Well, I must say to you, sir, that, this is very inspirational. I don't know that Barbadians would boycott Chefette. Chefette is a big fast food restaurants in Barbados. I can't see that happening. Let me just hear. Let me ask the people who are watching. Do you think that Barbadians would, for any reason at all, boycott Chefette? Good night, Mr. Franklin. How are you? This is so amazing. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. I will remain so. I'm sorry I didn't get on earlier, but I was tracing down some information for the show tonight, but I just got it, so that will come on later.
Yes.
But in terms of Chefette, people boycotting them, I do not know why they don't. You know, they give them bad food. They use the oil forever. And when I complain and tell the people they should boycott them, she had a special man and began two rotis for the price of one, and you had lines line up all around the place, all up to the roundabout. You know, they just like the belly too much and eating a lot of filth. And you know, and they treat the staff like dirt. Mind you, not as bad as KFC because they treat the staff bad here too. I remember they fired a girl for drinking a little juice that they were trying on the sink, and she caught some and they fired her. You know, but it is awful. You know, so
Yeah.
but the Belgians are gonna do it. All
Well,
they're gonna
Well,
do is get them a special.
well,
well,
Trinidad is they're boycotting KFC and it seemed to be successful. You were saying something, Mr. Inchan?
yes, one of the things I failed to mention, and I humbly apologize for that, what led to the increase in certain things, for example, the prices, is the increase in the minimum wage. The minimum wage went from 17.50 to 21.50, a $4 increase, or
Yeah.
$4+ increase. And basically what that caused was KFC said, for us to, facilitate this, we need to raise our prices. Now, here's the same company that is raking in hundreds of millions of dollars in profit. Staff is now getting $4 extra, and you now have to tax everybody because of that. You cannot take that out, or you can't say, well, here's what's happening. We're going to cut our advertising budget. Our advertising budget is 50 million for the year. We'll cut it down to 45 million, because what sense does it make? You have 10 billboards in an area with the same message. If people hungry after this first billboard they would want to buy, they don't need to see 10 to purchase. You understand? So that was one of the things that KFC did, that really caused this whole issue. In fact, there was a meeting of the chicken suppliers, the Poultry Association, and one of the poultry suppliers said, we need to raise prices, and then another one objected. So you have the unscrupulous, and then you have those who are on the side of the citizens.
Yes, yes. Wow. Let me just read the media release from Prestige Holdings Limited. They said Prestige Holdings Limited is aware of recent negative posts on social media coming from a profile bearing the name Alex Mute. This profile is in no way affiliated with Prestige Holdings, and the remarks being posted under it are not reflective of Prestige Holdings or its values. We can confirm that no one bearing that name is involved in the management or ownership of Prestige Holdings. The Mute family, like Prestige Holdings, respects and celebrates the efforts of all individuals to generate a better life for themselves and their families. And it goes on. At Prestige Holdings, we remain singularly focused on serving our customers and communities to the best of our ability. We thank you for your continued support of our restaurants and our people. And their restaurants are KFC, Pizza Hut, TGIF Fridays, Subway, and Starbucks. Well, so Mr. Ishmael, what is your final word? If you were what would you say to Barbadians now who are listening and they're thinking about their love affair with Sheffet?
The reality of it is that we as human beings, really and truly, we have become a weak species. The days of my father and my mother, that is when the genetics was strong. Nowadays, we are making a set of cowards. Our children are afraid. Even in the night to see the boogeyman, they are afraid. And the reality of it is that even just to raise your voices, people are so afraid. And I think we need to get back men with testicular fortitude again, where people are willing to stand up for what is right and stand together, irregardless of the consequences, because you're not doing anything wrong. You're not breaking any law, and no one is going to tell you to break a law. What we are hoping forward to is people coming together and making a difference, whether it be KFC, whether it be Sheffet, whether it be X, whether it be Y. We as citizens have been ridden on for too long, and really and truly, it's about time we stand up. And if it's KFC is the whipping horse at the beginning, so be it.
Yes. Well, Mr. Ishmael, thank you so
Thank you.
much for coming on
Thank you
tonight
so much.
and this inspirational talk for Barbados, you might just hear there's a boycott over here, and you will be blamed. That they might come and arrest you over there. Arrest number 8.
No, well, our country has already gone into Barbados and arrested someone and brought him over already. I don't know if you're familiar with that incident, but what happened is that our arms reach very far.
Mm, mm.
All right,
Well,
so all the best and thank you again.
thank you so much, Mr.
Take
Ishmael.
care.
God
All
bless
the
you.
best. Bye bye.
Bye. Yes. Oh my word, that was quite interesting, right, Mr. Franklin? Okay, let me unmute you. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, speak up.
I missed most of it. As I told you, I was hunting down some of these Hope people and see what was happening. If I could find out what was happening at Hope. Because I heard rumors of resignations today. I was only able to get it confirmed just before I came on. Hot off the press. Three
What is
senior
hot
man
off the press? What is hot off the press?
3 senior managers resigned from Hope today. The finance manager, the project director, and the internal audit manager.
Hold a minute. So the finance manager has resigned. I'm writing because this is hot off the press.
Yeah.
Finance manager. Who else?
The project director.
The project. What, didn't they just get a new one?
They just got a new CEO that I'm aware of.
CEO. Right. Yes, they got a
Who
CEO.
who is earning a paltry sum of $30,000 a month. Yeah.
That's the CEO. And who is the third one? So the finance manager, the project director,
And the internal audit manager.
wow. And they were all they resigned or they were
They
fired?
resigned today. They weren't pushed. They jumped. They had to get out of there. For whatever reason I don't know yet. But I will dig some more. The and last month 2 other people resigned as well. So in February 2 resigned, March
What's
3
going on
resigned.
there? What is
I have
happening
no
in
idea. You have to ask the government because they are the people in charge. So I really don't know. But when you see such a mass exodus, the ship sinking. And some people don't want to drown on it. But mind you, so you have a CEO now. I don't know who else you got working with him because you had 2 people, and there can't be a hell of a lot more people because they were just managing the project. They can't be and the things were being built by Maloney, Pre-Conco to be exact. I don't want to call him Maloney. He wasn't building them as his company, and so you don't need a lot of staff for that. But you have bills and things to pay, so you have the project manager, the project director, the finance manager, and the internal audit manager all going one time. You see them there.
Okay, so if you look at so this is top management. Now, and all of these are kind of related. The finance manager and the internal auditor general.
They got to work together.
That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to understand this kind of move here now. And do you have any idea of the organizational structure?
No, I have no idea. I just found out this today. I didn't know what happens up there in terms of their management and their structure, but you can't have too many more people in this situation because what will they be doing? They don't build anything. When I say build, I mean build, BUILD. They might be doing a lot of billings because the CEO getting $30,000 a month.
A month. Oh
yeah, this is the guy that was working in Dominica. I don't know if he's Dominican though, because if he's Dominican, he might be able to work here, as a CARICOM skilled national. If he isn't, he does not. If he isn't a CARICOM skilled national, then he would have to get a work permit. So far, my checks with immigration is that they have not got a work permit for him. So I want to find out if he has a Dominican passport, which will entitle him to work in Barbados. So all these things I was trying to check into before the show, but it took a bit longer than that's why you saw me so late, because that took me off of what I really wanted to talk to you about
Yeah, but
today.
this is a big one. This is a big one. And listen, I want to know. I wonder what impact Kimar would have had on them.
I think I said they weren't push, but if there was any pushing, it was Kimar who did it.
Yeah, that this is
Because he
it.
might have opened their eyes, because things might be going on around them that they didn't know. Because when
Yeah.
you work in an office and you're paying bills and stuff for things that ain't happening, probably the bills for the roads paid, I don't know.
Mm. But it's I mean they were building, for example, the one in St. John there, they had started building, and they didn't even have the title deed. So it makes you wonder. I had to, I mean, I remember asking if it was a scam, because I don't understand. I mean, it doesn't make sense. So probably it's a shell. Is it a shell?
I have no idea what these people are doing, because the government should set this standard of behavior. You do not build houses before you build roads.
Hmm.
Because when you put houses around the place, you don't got the plan for the roads. Next thing you know, you're going to do all kind of fancy. Somebody said, what Kimar going to do? So it sounded amateurish from the beginning,
Hmm.
or it might be amateurish deliberately so. Because
And it
amateurs make mistakes.
Yeah, and it looked very honestly, when you look at the pictures, Mr. Franklin, the green and the all of those kinds of colors and the logo, and I mean it's beautiful. There was somebody on here said that they designed the logo. It was beautifully done. And it just drew you in. It drew, you felt like you're gonna get your dream home. And it's this was just beautiful, but it seems like something is amiss. No, there's no. I mean, when if you have an organization and these three top people are going to just get up and just resign like that.
I,
Hmm.
uh, from the time government started to build houses for people and selling them the land and telling them which house they can build and all kind of stuff, I always knew it was some sort of scam. Because if I want to build a house, okay, you tell me, well, I buy this land, and because of the covenants or whatever, my house got to be at least $350,000 or more. You can't have less.
Hmm.
But let me build the house that I want. Don't build something that I find that I can't fit into. And a lot of these houses, when people get them, they're gonna sell the furniture where they were living, because the bed's too small for the bedroom. You can't run the roof on the bed, and because the bed's got to be chucked up to the wall. It's not enough fun gone. And that's a nice thing to do. When you got a bedroom, but you got to put a little bed. The fridge can't get in the house. I know of one instance where they put some person in the house, and when the fridge get, they had to take off the door, so that I
Hmm.
thought, and then when the fridge get in, then they had to put back on the door, because these things were not designed for the people. You design and say, but you fit in there. Now, so people should be able to say what they want. And what they have been doing is to say, look, we will sell you this land, and you will assign a contractor to you to build a particular house for you. So they will give
Hmm.
you a piece of land, but you have to use their contractor. So it was always a scam for the contractor to get money to pass back some to the party. It is as simple as that. If I want to build a house, I know what I want. I don't think that you need to build one for me and then they gotta fit it. That is not fair. And what they build all these samey things,
Hmm.
and no imagination, and people have to conform to the house. And in a lot of instances, the spots are too small, so you can't do much expanding or redesigning, because you butt up, and if you're building too close to the neighbor, you're building too close to the road, that kind of stuff. and then when people actually then build, they just meet the minimum requirements. So you have this massive house on this little spot, and it looks you can't got enough place to put a clothesline if you want to one. It isn't designed for Barbados, it's designed for our climate because I prefer to put my clothes outside and let the sunshine on them. And, you know that smell.
Yeah.
As opposed to just take them. I don't care what you do. You take these little packages and put them in the dryer, and but there's nothing smells like clothes dried in the sun.
Mm-hmm.
You
Wow.
know, but
Well, as you said, something is amiss, something is going on, and we want to thank Kimar for stepping out there and speaking up. And coach, I was here trying to see if you could jump on quickly in this part of the conversation. So Kimar, if you're listening, can you jump on? I know you normally come on. We had you coming on a little later, but feel free to jump on in the conversation. Jump on. Um, I'm not seeing him. It looks like he's not online. But yes, Mr. Franklin, I mean, what's happening with the workers? What's happening with the sanitation workers that there was the infested water? Can you give us an update on that? You know?
well, whenever Unity Workers Union go there and try to get something done for these workers, government has to counter by getting the other unions to do something. So this morning, I see a big thing in the paper, or that they can get wage increase. You know, they were asking for wage increases now for years because the kind of level of money that sanitation people work for, the type of work that they do, they just pay a bit more than general workers in public service, and they do more than general work. You know, if you go to New York, I can use this as an example. Go to New York and in the morning, look outside when these garbage trucks coming down, and tell me how many black people you see on those trucks. If you've ever seen one, you're the luckiest woman in the world. As I said, they're rare as hen's teeth. You do not see black people on those trucks. You want to know why? They're too well paid. Those jobs, and of course, a lot of them have mafia connections too. So Italian people, they have the contracts for them, but you can't get a job in sanitation.
Mm-hmm,
But our people are paid very low wages.
mm-hmm,
So to outshine Unity, they have come, and I'm happy for it. I'm happy. I'm hoping now that they give them a kind of increase like national insurance because they entice national insurance people to join this new structure and to come and sign on a board as opposed to being civil servants. They gave them increases. I think the lowest increase anybody got was $300 and somebody dollars.
mm-hmm.
Some people get 2,000. Some people get more. Some people get about a 30% increase on their 30 or 40% increase on their salary, so to go over to the board. So a lot of people, but so when you hear the minister parading and talking about oh nobody was coerced and all kind of thing, you coerce them, you bite them off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you ain't got no shame. You know, I know one friend of mine who works there. He had actually submitted his retirement papers, and when he saw the job offer and how much money he's going to get, a $2,000 more on his salary. My back for retirement papers here. My back for them. So if they're gonna do something like that for sanitation, I'm very happy. You know, I don't care who gets it for them. You know, I don't need to have that as part of the thing. Oh, I did for you. I want people to get you things. Whoever get them, and they need more salary, right? I understand the minister went there is yesterday or the day before, and to tour the landfill and to speak with the management and the PS or whatever else from the ministry, and they have said that oh they're going to fix this and fix the next and fix the third. Now these were conditions, these were things that were being complained about all the time. You know, you on a landfill. A landfill is famous for rats. Some of the biggest rats in Barbados are in that landfill. I remember one day driving up there. I did go to I went to the landfill to visit my people, and I drive up there, and when I was on my way leaving,
Mm-hmm.
I saw this big rat, And I stopped the car and hauled at the rat car and stood up on his hind legs and like it telling me come. You know, you know, this thing's big. And you have workers in a container with a hole with holes in it that the rats will come in. That ain't good.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me that people had to strike to get those minimum conditions? You had to strike to get clean water. You know, that is how we treat the people who you consider lower. But let sanitation start working for a month or 2 weeks, then not so much.
Right.
This place will be hell. They are important people, but they don't treat them as such. But the politicians now decide, well, okay, well, we're gonna play games with them, or we want NUPW to to remain up there so we can deal with them, so we can give NUPW now the opportunity. I remember when we submitted proposals for the nurses. They took our proposals and gave them to the Barbados Nursing Association and said negotiate them. And unfortunately for them, they didn't understand the proposal, so they couldn't negotiate them. Well, they got them anyhow. They pretended, oh yeah, we can agree to these proposals as your proposals, not mine, not the ones that not the person sent them in. And they have not lived up to them yet. So all the things that they said they're going to agree with the Barbados Nurses Association, they haven't agreed with them. They're just using these mindless people who call themselves presidents and general secretaries of other unions because of their political connections or what the politicians could trick them into, and they are not representing the workers. I can't represent all. I do not want to see the demise of these unions. I feel that I have a space I can occupy. They have a space I can occupy too. So I don't want to see them destroyed. I do not want to see the Barbados Workers Union destroyed. Mind you, they are on the road to it all by themselves. The NUPW now, when I was there, when I was an employee there, they had 10,000 people. They're scraping to find 4,000 now. You know, I don't want to see it destroyed. NUPW was responsible for my training. They sent me overseas for training and stuff. So I don't want to see them destroyed. I would like to see them working and work properly. But they're not doing that. Because I don't have the wherewithal and the facilities to represent everybody in the public service. So why would I want to get all and then ain't able to handle any? You know, but I would like them to come up to mark, you know, do something.
Yeah.
I will survive, they will survive, but they're not doing it. But same thing with Barbados Workers Union. When I went to Labour College in the States back in 1984, I did a paper on Barbados and the union movement. The BW had, it was 30,000 people. Now they can't find 10 because they are not doing what the workers want. The workers getting vexed. People ask if trade unionism dying. No, it is more like suicide. They're killing themselves, but they're drinking small doses of poison. They're doing it one time, so they're destroying themselves. It has nothing to do with me. People see me as a last resort then because they're not getting the support that they need. So that they say, well, okay, let me try Caswell. Because we're saying that he's doing something. At least he's trying to do something.
Yeah.
But that's the state. That's basically the state of unionism in Barbados right now. The workers are being mistreated, unfair. You have situations where the unions, the other unions, fail to represent their workers. And I'll tell them something now. If you have a union that does not do its best to represent you, that is an actionable matter in the court.
Yes.
You can sue them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can sue unions. And a person who, as a person called me the other day and asked me for some advice because they thought that the union officer who was dealing with them was not adequate. And they said, if you call Caswell, we're helping you no more. They can't do that. I didn't come and join my union and fire that union. They are members of the, and there's no law against being a member of union, two or three unions. So when they refused then to help that worker, because the worker thought that the officer from that particular union was not adequate for the task, and they called me to say, well, the officer did this, the officer said that. Is that correct? I was able to tell them no. So they went back and said, well, I talked to Caswell, and Caswell said they can't. And they decided they're going to duck out and leave the worker. And I would sue them. That's an offense, and you can get compensation for it. You cannot hold yourself out to be a professional trade unionist and then mistreat workers. That because when you do that, right, it's like a lawyer who go out there and don't and refuse to do his work. You take up the bar association. They don't have a trade union association to take them to, so they take them to court. And I know only one case in the Caribbean where a union was sued. It was in Guyana, I think, and the union had to pay. So what unit? The workers have power in their hands, but unfortunately, they might not have the money.
They're hearing. It's not on my part. They're hearing like news. There's a radio or TV in the background.
No, I ain't got nothing on but me. You know.
Okay.
You know, so you're still here. I'm not hearing anything though.
Oh, could be a conversation. Okay, could be a conversation. They're saying. All right, no problem, no problem. But you know, Mister, I learned something tonight that a union can be sued. So, guys, did you all hear that? A union could be sued
By its members for inadequate representation.
Yeah. Somebody said, okay. All right. Well, you know, tonight, Mr. Franklin, I don't know if you saw the newspaper yesterday morning, right? I was up, and then someone from our, you know, the loyal opposition, you know, sent me this thing bright and early about Digicel. Remember, we were talking about the tower.
Yes.
Right, and I was saying we're going to deal with it on the show today, and you know, someone sent and said, "Listen, Digicel is going to remove the tower." I mean, I was beside myself in the house, you know, and you know, last night, I don't know if you remember, I was saying, you know, they probably a lot of white people probably live there, etc. But I decided, you know, that I'm going to call the name I saw in the newspaper, so I asked around and got the name of the person, and I contacted Dr. Alleyne, Jennifer Alleyne. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. And she is from the community, and she's going to be joining us at this moment. Good evening, Dr. Jennifer Alleyne. How are you? Okay, you're muted. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. We're hearing you loud and clear, ma'am. Good evening.
I am fantastic.
Well, you know, we had a big laugh yesterday. You were laughing. I could imagine your head all the way in your back, you know, because I was here saying in my house, there must be white people. And here you are.
And this evening, when you saw me, you said, "Hello, white person," and I fell out. It was so funny.
But you know, we are excited, and I must say that the person who sent it to me, you know, she was so inspired by the fact that here were villagers. It's a small community, you know, it's a small village, and this village was able to get, as the headline said, get Digicel to bow. And with that, you know what she said to me? She said, you know, she's now ready to do something that she had wanted to do, you know. And then she saw Mr. Thorne in the picture, and she said, I want to talk to Mr. Thorne now. I'm ready, you know. So it was just very inspirational. But Dr. Alleyne, can you give us the backstory? Tell us how you got involved, etc.
Okay. So first, good night, listeners. It's pretty exciting to be on this program. Shout out to my big sister, Ruth Blackman. She's an avid listener to this podcast. So
hold a minute. Ruth Blackman, who was the permanent secretary at the
Yes,
that oh my
it's a
lordy.
small world.
Small world. She's amazing. She's
She is,
was an
even though she
amazing.
might say she is. So
Go ahead.
anyway, January 18th was when they established this put this tower in Olive Lodge Road, and I usually walk in the morning, so I came out, I saw it, and there were two other women standing by it taking pictures, and we started
Mhm.
talking. Those two women were Sharon Roach and Matrina Gibson. So we said, this is crazy, this has to go. But then we didn't do anything, to be honest. I went on my walk and came back. A few days later, a Digicel truck came into the neighborhood, and they
Yes.
were installing wires connecting it to the tower. So I politely went up to one and I said, a worker, and I said, can you tell me, is this connected to the tower? He said, yes. And that was it. And I said, could you tell me anything more? He didn't answer. Then a couple of, I don't know, about 20 minutes later, they looked at me and said, we need to come into your yard to put something else on this pole. And I said, you're not coming in my yard until you tell me what's going on. And so they squeezed themselves between two houses outside of my fence to continue to do the work. That's when I got pissed off. And
Mm.
so I started taking pictures. And then the Friday, so that was a Friday. That was a Thursday. Friday, I went on Let's Talk About It. And then I went and handed out flyers in the neighborhood and just asked people, if you're concerned about this, come. And I waited in my yard that Saturday evening, not knowing what was going to happen. And
Yes.
30 people showed up.
How many?
30.
Wow.
They were really upset, and they were, they just said, no, this has to go. This tower has to go. So I'm the face that you're seeing, but really the power of this movement lie in the amazing people that live in Olive Lodge Road. So we
Mhm.
started fighting. And today, well, it's going down, but today the CEO of Digicel called me this evening at about 4:45 to say that it will be gone on or before March 20th.
Wow. Wow. That's you call the power of the people. And Mr. Franklin, this one woman decided they were talking. Let's go over the story. So you're there, you're talking, right there under the pole, you went walking, you came back, and then you decided to hand out some flyers, and I'm going through it so that people would realize that it just takes a thought. It just takes one person. And you were there waiting, and you didn't know if anybody would show up. What was going on in your mind as you were waiting in your yard?
I was laughing to myself. I said, you know what? If one person comes, we're going to talk about it. And when the neighbors just started coming and coming, and I didn't even know some of these people lived in the gap. It was just awesome. It was incredible. It really was. And the passion. And these are, I'd say about a third of my neighbors are elderly, and they're coming with their walking sticks. They're bringing their own chairs. They're there, and the passion was incredible. So I felt revitalized by the meeting just because of the passion of my neighbors. They were like, okay, this tower has to go. So it was
And you're,
awesome.
you're, you're talking about passion, and I keep saying on the show, because people saying, oh, Bajans are so passive. And I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. But you are seeing a lot of passion from these people. One old man was saying, an elderly man, oops, an elderly
Mr.
man, he was
Mahan,
saying,
Mr. Mahan,
what's his name?
Mr. Mahan.
Mr. Mahan. Let us give us a shout out to Mr. Mahan. Mr. Mahan had a walking, like a walker. Did he have
Yes,
a walker? And he
yes.
was saying that he said that he would die first or something.
We're
And
gonna
he
fight them with every ounce of blood.
yes, yes, he says we're gonna fight them. And he held on to that walker, Mr. Mahan. We're gonna fight them with every ounce of blood. I said, look at this man. Look at this Bajan. Look at this. This is a very, very powerful Bajan man, and he was just speaking that out. That is simply amazing. Somebody said he never played in his younger days.
But you know, on a serious note, people are afraid. I don't know if it's a historical fear or if it's something that, you know, culturally we do. People have complaints, but they're always worried about what would be the kickback. You know, what would they have to suffer in order to protest something. I got upset. And when I get upset, I pretty much act. That's just my personality. Um, but everyone was just waiting. And I'm glad that I got upset because then I realized that everyone was waiting. Before that, I didn't realize it.
Yes.
And when we say that the agents are passive, I don't think so, but they're very aware of how small this country is. And the
Mhm.
things that I've found out around this and who's related to whom and who's working for whom, it blew my mind. And
Mhm.
so it's a legitimate fear on some level. I mean, there
Yes.
were people coming and telling us, you know, you may lose service down in here if you guys keep acting up. And to my mind, I feel like as long as you are paying your bill, you
Mhm.
have a right then to protest if you lose service. So I wasn't even worried about that. But I can understand someone not knowing or not feeling that empowered would say, wow, what if I make a protest? Maybe I won't be able to call my relatives. And I'm elderly. So that's a legitimate position, right? But
Mhm.
when we all got together and we all realized that everybody was angry about the same thing, it was just, it was amazing. And then we got such help from the media. I have to give a shout out. I also
Wow.
have to give a shout. We did. We got amazing help from the media. But the truth is, Paul Gibson, the DLP representative for this area, he came and talked to us very early on, and he is the person who really connected us with a lot of the media attention that we got. So I
Oh wow.
intend to give him kudos. We're having
Kudos
our
to Paul Gibson. I mean,
yes, yes,
he's not even, and this is what I keep saying, Mr. Franklin, on this show, to people who say, but we don't have any money, like those MPs that are in government, and we can't do this and we can't do that. But here it is, Paul Gibson, who he would understand some of the medical issues that could occur, from something like this being erected among, so close to houses, which we're going to talk about a little later. But here it is. All he had to do was pick up his phone and make calls. And I guess he had Mr. Thorne with him. I saw them there.
yeah.
You were saying something, Mr. Franklin, and then we go
Yes,
back.
I was saying something because when you said Paul, I jumped. You know why? Because when this the dust settled, Carrie Simmons came and oh they should apologize. Where was he all the time? You know, he jumped on the bandwagon when the bandwagon everything was over. You know, it's a shameful behavior. When I saw it, I said, look at there. You know, you mean you guys took that low? These people only have fought by themselves without you backing them up. Because if he had backed you up, your fight would have been finished much earlier. You wouldn't have to go through all of this. But no, he wanted some glory. He want to get some glory out of it, and he going to tell people should apologize and that kind of nonsense. You see what I got to say for these politicians? Oh.
But I'm glad that you mentioned that, because sometimes we come on the show and we really demand a lot of the representatives, and Mr. Gibson is not even yet voted in, and this is what we're trying to say to people, that don't wait. It just takes a phone call. It's just interest in people that really matters, and
Yeah.
people feel that, Dr. Alleyne. Can you walk us through? So you brought the 30 persons together in your yard, right?
Yes.
And you had the discussion, and Mr. Mahan gave the edict and let you know this is what is going to happen with his walker. And what happened next? What did you do next?
Well, what happened next was we got media attention during that week, and we got calls from the CEO of Digicel. We got calls from Minister Cattle. We got all these calls.
Mm-hmm.
We started a petition. We got a petition together, and we ended up submitting to them a petition with 123 signatures, representing 67 of the approximately 70 houses
Wow.
in our street.
So
So
you almost
everyone,
had full. You almost had. Wow.
yes, yes. So people that weren't always coming to the meetings, but everyone signed the petition. So we called the PS Howell and said we're gonna bring the petition, and she said, "Well, I'm out of office until 2 o'clock, but if you come after 2, I'll be there. But if I'm not there, the deputy PS will receive you." We got there at 3 o'clock. She was not there. The deputy PS was in a meeting, and the secretary that was there was so reluctant to even take the petition from us. So that was again a level of disrespect.
What
And
happened?
at our second meeting, we decided that we're going to we're going to gather our own monies, because we were getting press. People were talking about it. But then we decided, you know what? We're going to gather our money and put our own statement, because earlier that same week, Digicel and the telecommunications unit, they put out statements in the paper, and Digicel said it had met all the regulations and done everything right. That was not true. And the telecommunications unit said that the tower had been moved to where now it's safely away from a house, from all houses. That was not true. So we decided, we got our monies together, and people gave as little as $5 and as much as $300. People gave what they could, but we paid for that statement, and we brought it out. And I think that statement really jettisoned a lot of things going on, because I think that statement said to them, we're not giving up. We're just not. So
Mm, wow.
so
So did you?
go ahead.
But I'm going to pause, let you pause because this story is so intriguing. So there you are. You were talking about it. You saw people standing close to you, talked about it. Then you got really angry. You gave out some flyers because I'm taking notes. You gave out some flyers, right? And
Yes.
then Mr. Paul Gibson, you asked people to come to your house. People came to your house. Over 30 persons came to your house. Paul Gibson took up the whole issue, tried to get you some media coverage, and then you did a petition. There's a reason I'm doing this because I
Okay.
want us to see how you did that systematically. You did a petition,
Well,
right?
even before the petition, we wrote letters to the telecommunications unit. So we
Uh-huh.
wrote two letters basically stating why we objected to the tower being in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And we addressed those letters to the a senior officer, because that was our correspondence. Afterward,
Mm-hmm.
we found out that it would be better to address them to the permanent secretary. So we sent them again, addressed to the permanent secretary. By last Friday, now we sent those about, I don't know, 8 9 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
Only last Friday we got a note, an email saying, "Thank you for the letters. We're working hard to address this issue." We had questions in our letters, we had statements, we talked about issues, we wanted them to speak back to us, but all we
Mm-hmm.
got was, "Thank you, we've received your correspondence," which
Right.
again, to me, is disrespectful. But by then we had also sent the petition. So we started off with letters, then we did the petition, got all the signatures, made copies, and took it to the telecommunications unit.
Mm.
Interestingly enough, though, now we've heard that their correspondent says they've passed it on to Town and Country Planning. And I heard today that Town and Country Planning has it up on their website.
Okay. Interesting.
That was
Interesting.
that was cart before the horse,
It
or
was.
well, not necessarily horse, because I think I'm seeing a gray animal, looks something like a horse. you know, but they just they just feel that they can do whatever they like. The simplest thing to do would have been call Kerry Simmons. Kerry Simmons speak to his colleague, Minister of Home Affairs, who will call his wife and say, "Honey, what are you doing up there?" And matter done. You know, no, but he went to the last minute and they sneaking a back
Well, the
door.
truth is, he got a letter really early. He got a letter even before the telecommunications unit, and we got no correspondence from that one. And that was a private citizen who told us that she had written his office. So
Okay, so a private citizen wrote to
yes, one
the
lady. She
official
knew somebody
representative,
who
Kerry
knew.
Simmons, and
Yes, yes,
there was
she
no
said it.
response. But we,
But
but
well, and I'll give you some advice now. Politicians are not elected for life. He will need to come to your house again.
Well, he's
Don't
coming
let
Sunday, actually.
don't let him in. When you need him,
No.
no, no, no. When you
uh,
needed him, he was not there. But when you had something, because what a lot of people think or don't know is that these radio waves kill. They make people sick. You get
All the
cancers from
time.
them, all kind
All
of stuff.
the time. It's
And
true.
it should be far away from any residential area. It cannot be just a few yards away from somebody's house, because that means that you are expendable.
Well, it's interesting though because I did a lot of research, in anticipation that, if we're going to have a fight, I kind of have to be armed with what I want to fight against. And there's different bodies, international bodies, that talk about the distance from residential homes.
mhm,
So, on one set of bodies would say they highly recommend, in order for citizens to be assured some type of safety against any health risk, they recommend that these cell towers be at least a quarter of a mile away from any homes.
mhm,
The FCC, the U.S. Federal Commission,
mhm,
they and the U.S. Department of Transportation, they went the opposite direction, and they said they allow cell towers to be at least 20 meters, which is only 65 feet away from a residential home. It's an
mhm.
accepted guideline, but it's the one that Barbados chose to use, because the first conversation that I had, I brought it up, and this was a senior officer from Digicel. He confirmed that yes, 20 meters was what they talked about. Now,
Mhm.
20 meters is the least acceptable, to be
Right.
honest, right? But it is accepted. So I'll be
Mhm.
clear about that. So it is an international regulation, but they were in violation of their own regulation.
Ah.
Also, before a cell tower can be put up, and this I was told by a senior officer in the telecommunications unit, it has to go through, tests have to be done, radio frequency tests have to be done, power density tests have to be done. Town and country planner has to come and look at the spot, the Department of Health, the Environmental Protection Agencies, telecommunications unit themselves. So there's a body of agencies, governmental agencies, that are supposed to come, survey the site, write or contribute to this report that then concludes, yes, this is a tenable site, or no, this is not. None of that was done. None. Digicel just decided, because they were being pressured to increase connectivity in Barbados, they were going to land wherever they were going to land. And, today when the CEO called me, and I'm going to call her out on this, we asked in the past for her to apologize, for the company actually, to apologize to us, to just say, you know what, we apologize. Maybe we didn't know, maybe we acted hastily. She called, she confirmed a date, because she had called me 2 days previously, but she wasn't able to confirm a date. And I said, I'm not telling the villagers anything until you tell me a date. So she
Yes.
called today and confirmed the date. And the conversation was, I kid you not, maybe a minute or two long. I refuse to ask her to consider apologizing. If she doesn't know that she needs to, that's it. But you know what? We don't care. The tower is gone. It's going
Yeah.
to be.
But it's a shame, though. It's a shame. She should apologize. And in fact, what Mr. Kerry Simmons should have been saying as a minister of government, they should be advocating for some kind of fine or something on Digicel. There has to be something in the law where a company that does not, adhere to the whatever the standards are, or they
That's a
don't show
great point.
any kind of social care, that there must be some kind of fine. It can't be, there has to be something. It can't just be, okay, they just take down the tower and that's it. There has to be yeah.
I really, really appreciate you saying that because today I was on another talk show and I was saying, I the issue that I have is that okay, we have a problem. You admit you don't have permission, but then you say, "Oh, but we're serving 2,500 residents and 25 plus businesses, so show us leniency." And I feel like where were you serving them before 2 months ago? And how could you just bring them here knowing that you're in violation of your own regulations? And then we have to put up with you because you were serving. So it's a never ending cycle that keeps the residents and the average citizen at the bottom of the totem pole because we can't we can't protest because now it's the common good that we're protesting against
Mm,
when in fact this company violated regulations. So at some point, there has to be a fine or there has to be something that say, if you dare to do this, these are the repercussions.
correct. Agree. Mr. Franklin, you had
No,
uh,
I was saying that they sound like Spock from Star Trek. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. If you kill one person, that's too much.
Yes.
They got to find some other way to do it.
Yes.
I don't love this thing that they're making bare money because that's about money, and they will kill you for a few dollars. That's corporate greed. And you see, the problem is nobody will charge them with murder when you're gone. They're going to want you to prove that it was actually these were the waves that caused your illness and all kind of stuff. You will have all hell trying to prove what everybody knows. But in the courts want proof. And they know that. So they will do it to you knowing that it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to get that information in the form of evidence that the court will accept. And,
It's
and
greed, it's greed all around, and greed is a human condition, unfortunately, because the landowner doesn't live in a gap. They own that piece of land, but they felt okay just saying, okay, you all can rent this land from us because they leased the land and paid a lot for it. I heard. But there's another family in this gap that owns tons of land in this neighborhood, and they said no to Digicel. They said no, you're not going to put any tower on our land, and they had the land that they would have been way away from residences, and they're black too, Marcia. So so
I don't think I'm gonna live that. I'm gonna live that one down. But Mr. Dr. Allen, can we go over the issues with this cell tower? One,
okay,
it was it's supposed to be 20 meters
which is
away from
65 feet, any
65 feet
residential
away
property.
from homes, and it
that is
wasn't.
that is that is too small. I don't care what you tell me.
And,
Yeah,
but still, they just went and plopped it down, and they didn't.
they
How,
plotted
how
down
far how
15
far
feet.
away? How far away was it?
Initially, it was only 15 feet away from an elderly woman's house.
1-5.
One
Barbados,
five.
listen. 15. It's supposed to be 65 feet. But they just made the tower 15 feet away from an
Initially,
elderly woman's house because they know they can't say anything. And then they didn't do any tests done, right? You said?
no radio frequency test had occurred, no power density test, because within every neighborhood, there's a certain level amount of power that those poles can hold. So before you bring anything in, before you bring another house, far less a cell tower, you have to test for power density. And in fact, they had it running on generators, and the generators were running for 24 hours. So it not only had its, radioactive risk, they were keeping people awake at night because the generators were so loud. The fumes from the gas and the it's not gas, but you guys, if you say
The diesel.
the diesel, thank you. The fumes from the diesel were affecting people when they walk past, and the elderly usually walk in the evenings and in the mornings, but they had stopped because the fumes were affecting them. Another elderly lady, she had to close her windows because the fumes were coming into her home. So it was really bad. When we started the protest and we started talking about it, calls started coming in, and within, I kid you not, within 2 days, the Barbados Light and Power, this is record. The Barbados Light and Power Company came, erected a separate pole, a separate electrical pole to run the tower on, okay? To get rid of the generators and the fumes. Now, the erection of that pole really caused alarm. On one hand, we were glad to see the diesel and the generators go, but on the other hand, the erection of a pole feels permanent, right?
Mhm.
So it was quiet, but it was almost ominous. It was so deadly. And that's when we said, okay, we got to keep this conversation alive in the media, because if that pole stays there and the quiet stays there, people are going to think, okay, the problem is fixed. The
But
problem was
Dr. Alleyne, that poll was saying that they didn't intend to move. That's what that poll was saying, that they did not intend to move. And with all of these things that you're saying to us, Digicel needs to make an apology. It needs to be national. And I strongly believe Digicel has broken the laws of the country, and they should be fined for it. They are large business, and they should be fined. And Barbadians should be demanding that Digicel be fined. They broke the laws of this country. Mr. Franklin, and then I'm going to ask you, Dr. Allen, to what do you want to say to Barbadians who are listening? But let's hear from Dr.
I believe that the Giselle is going to apologize because the apology was already done, already agreed upon. Or not, Carrie Simmons wouldn't have said a word. So he just get up front to make it sound like it was him who get the apology for you because he wanted to appear to be doing something. The apology was probably even drafted already, just waiting, and he decided he knows. I don't trust as far as I could throw that ugly head if it was off his body. It bothers me to think that politicians think that we are stupid, and they would come and try to like, for instance, you don't see them at all anytime at all, and then some person dies and you done this up. Sometimes even tell me wrong funeral and all kind of foolishness because they don't know what it is bad. They got to stop this nonsense. Stop treating people with this kind of disrespect. And then come down on a couple of weeks before election day and jump up, and some people do put in themselves and all kind of whatever it is. Some people rum and feel they can get people to support them. That is nonsense. They just deserve better. You down there deserve better. You shouldn't have to go through this. That should not have gone there in the first place. It should not have worked a single day, because there should have been meetings with the residents before anything happened. But you were a little small black community, and
That's
the
what they
man
thought. That's what
and
they
and
thought.
and the old people, so they
feisty old
could.
people, though.
Yeah, but
They
they
didn't
figure, well,
know.
these are old people that ain't gonna kick up. So that, I think, it was done more so for the old people, because they could dead so anyhow.
Mm.
That's a consideration, because if they start getting sick, it can be from their old age and existing conditions, as opposed to the tower. And by the time we work out the tower, they're gonna be gone.
I would hate to think that we are at that place in Barbados.
Yeah, we were there ever since. We were there ever since.
But I feel like at every point I wanted everyone involved. I invited Minister Cattle, I invited representatives from Digicel. I invited representatives from telecommunications unit. I invited anyone who wanted to come and speak to us on Sundays. We meet on Sundays from 4 to 5. The meeting is 1 hour long. I don't believe in long drawn out meetings. So we had the meetings. And this Sunday, um, Minister Simmons is going to be there. Um, and
But
also Paul
how
Gibson.
many meetings did you have already?
This will be our fourth.
Your
But I'm
fourth
telling you,
meeting
yes,
when
I'm
it's
telling you,
resolved, and it's
I'm
already
telling you,
resolved.
it's resolved. So it will be interesting from him to hear from his constituents. I think it's going to be a fascinating meeting, frankly, because I think people speak their minds in Olive Lodge Road. So it will be very, very interesting. But
It would be
I
fascinating if that old guy had a bull pistol.
and I'll say, I'll say this, and politics aside, you have to be a caring human being. And I didn't know Paul Gibson from the next fellow before all of this. But the care and concern that he showed, he came to the meetings. He came to the meetings. He came and spoke to, the residents, and he was there. He didn't have to be. We were not on anybody's agenda, right? And that to me, that's what's impressive. So I'm thanking him for what I saw that he did. That he's going to run for office in the future. That's wonderful if that happens. But it's the person who showed up and
But
supported the neighbors. That's what I'm thinking.
but that I know Paul. That is Paul.
Yeah, it
You
seems
know
to be.
that is Paul. Paul didn't do that because he's looking for a seat. Paul
Mhm.
did that because he wanted to help. Paul generally wants to help, and unfortunately, people in Barbados, you know, they don't have very many Pauls. You have people who are looking for something. Paul would have done that if he wasn't running, and I'm going to call him and speak to him about it later on. But he's a friend of mine, so I can tell you that is Paul.
Yes,
He's a
it's true.
caring individual. He didn't go there saying about look, these people can vote for me. He got there to see if he can help you because
Yeah,
Paul has this interest in health too. You see, he's a healthcare professional and he's not a doctor, but he's a pharmacist. And
right.
the other day was sick, man, and Paul was there ready to care for me. That's Paul.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's Dr. Alleyne. I just want to ask you to speak to Barbadians who might feel like my friend who sent it to me and said, listen, give me the number for so and so. I can do this now. Speak to those Barbadians who feel like it doesn't make any sense. You guys are marching on the street. You guys are writing letters. You are doing petitions. You are meeting together as you did. Oh, that's a waste of time. Nobody's going to listen to you. What do you say to Barbadians this evening, Dr. Alleyne?
Well, first I'll say people listen. You know, our government has to listen. There's no choice. There's so many things that you can do. The first thing we did was get our facts straight. We found out who was responsible. We found out the government agencies involved. It takes time. I'm retired, and many of us that were working on it, some of us work, but a lot of us are retired. So we have time, and I say that openly. But if it's important enough, those who came on Sundays, they worked. So they couldn't meet with us during the week, but they would come every Sunday to hear what we had done and to applaud us and to push us on. And that really helped. Believe in your purpose, even if no one else believes it. So many people said to us, your Digicel going to get cut off, or be careful, don't say certain things. But we decided that we were going to say what we needed to say. As long as we checked it out and recognized that it was not correct what they were saying, we responded. You cannot do it alone. I, Matrina Gibson, foot soldier. She knew everybody in the neighborhood. She collected the signatures. For the petition. I drew up the petition, but at the end of the day, she did that work. Sharon was a third generation in this
Okay.
gap. She knew people. So
Okay.
you have to find your community and talk to your neighbors. Talk to your neighbors. You and your neighbor may have a disagreement, but when you guys have a bigger purpose, all of that goes away, even if only temporary. So don't be afraid to talk to your neighbors and to find solace in that community bonding. But it is not a process that you would say, okay, I'm going to do it. You will feel fear. You will be nervous. Talk to yourself about that. You know what I mean? Talk to yourself about what you stand for, because if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. That's what I live by.
Yeah.
So, it's possible. It's not necessarily the cultural nature of Barbados, but we are changing. We are international. People know about us. We can do better. We can do better. Feel the fear, but do it anyway. And you will get success. I mean, today, after the CEO called, I put on my shoes and ran the complete gap. I ran up and down and I called everybody out. And I'm like, the tower is going, the tower is going. And the old people started praying. People were dancing, people were laughing. It was the energy. The dog started barking. It was something. It was amazing. Sunday is going to be phenomenal.
Yes, Sunday. It's a 246 power.
Yes.
The power of the people of Barbados. Thank you so much, Dr. Alleyne, for coming on. I'm inspired. Believe me, believe it or not, I am inspired. Wonderful to have had you. God bless you.
No, before you go, she said she's retired. It seems as though this is early retirement.
Yes, I was saying something myself. Yes, thank you, Dr. Alleyne. Thanks for dropping by. Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Wow.
Marcia, I have another thing.
For hurting me from smiling.
I have another thing that I think the Barbados needs to know, and I don't that. In the Identity Management Act, there's a section in it that says that if you change your address, you have to report it to the electoral office or to the chief electoral officer. It is section 9.5. It says 9.5. It says a person who has been issued with an identification card or a national identity credential shall notify the chief registration officer of any change in his place of residence within 30 days of the change of the address by submitting the notice of change of residence form settled in the fourth schedule to the registrant officer. But subsection 6 says a person who contravenes subsections 1 and 5, and this 5 I just read, is liable to pay to the commission an administrative penalty of $500. And only this week and last week, they have started to put in place mechanisms to make sure that they know who have moved into an area and have not registered, because they're getting the postmen now to spy on the people. They actually had meetings with the postmen for the postmen to go to the houses to see who is living in this house and report this information back to and they're even giving them some sort of tablet to record the information in. I don't know why they would want to get the postman killed, because let me tell you something, for the first fella that get that penalty put on him, you can know it's the postman that gave him. The postman come back down there, so it ain't gonna be the dog that running the postman this time. It can be a fella with a chopper. They should not do this to public officers.
But Mr. Franklin, we're gonna have to deal with that, because I mean that I didn't realize that was actually happening. But you hold that right there. I have Mr. Glyne Murray here, and we're going to, he's going to be looking at some history. Anytime we see Mr. Glyne Murray comes on, we know we're going into some history. But Mr. Franklin, I need you to hold on to that thought. Please don't lose it.
No, I'm not going to lose it. I'm angry. I'm going to lose this one.
No, we're gonna pick that up. Let's pick that up. But let's take we're taking about 20 minutes because we have a tight program tonight, Mr. Murray. And we're going to get into some history, because we're all about learning on this 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 show. Good night, Mr. Murray. How are you?
I'm good, and good night to you and everyone else. Good night to all the listeners. I'm glad to be able to join you once again.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
Before I get into my topic proper, I'd just like to a couple of comments on Dr. Alleyne's and the successful campaign they were able to wage in the neighborhood. Just to say that there's something in law, I'm sure Kazu knows about this, knows about quiet enjoyment, where law bequeaths on you the right to enjoy the quietness and the beauty and the tranquility of where you live. They call it quiet enjoyment. People of Barbados, so when they annoyed, they need it, they can recourse to that and get legal action against persons. They don't have to
It's,
suffer in silence at
yeah,
all.
it's called a nuisance.
Okay. The other thing is that I want to say that what is suspected happening that thing with the tower, there is a practice in Barbados known by many people when you're dealing with town and country planning or not town planning development office now. There's a practice for years where you would do something, you erect a structure or put on an addition to your property, and then when you don't advise town plan, you don't get their permission. When somebody objects, then they come, then you can apply for a retention, and that drags out the process. But I remember the first statement that came out about this thing. It said that the Digicel was in the process or would be applying for a retention. So I think this is a technique used to try to get away with as much as possible, as quickly as possible, having to go through the process. But done well done by Dr. Alen and her team and her neighbors, and I hope it's an inspiration for lots of other Barbadians when they have the difficulties with the power brokers or whatnot.
Yes,
Now, if I get into my subject properly,
yes,
you'll recall
sir.
that was it last week or a week and a half ago, a week ago, when there was this major encounter on the airwaves between businessman Anderson Cherry, black businessman Anderson Cherry, and the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Transport and Works over the question of of not the a group of persons, black businessmen, not getting some contract to join the work program, this accelerated paving program, etc. And that triggered people who talked to me, and I heard people discuss it, the whole question of whether the Barbados Labour Party is the party of big business and for and that is a euphemism for white people
Mm-hmm.
or white businesses as against business of all business, the party of all businesses, black businesses, etc. In other words, that way, if you are in favor of white, you're supposed then to be probably given a disadvantage to black businesses. And
Yes.
they thought, right. No, that's an old statement that goes back to to the 80s with Don Blackman when he talked about white shadows. I'll come forward to that, but I just thought to set the, but I thought before I get there, I get a certain context. Um, the point is that this, for what I recall in my research, this um, this label was attached to the Barbados Labour Party first around 1958. Now, you remember that Mr. Brown was a member of the Barbados Labour Party, won the seat in 51,
Mm-hmm.
right? Left in 55 to form the DLP, got beaten in 56.
Okay.
And then, right, by 58, when they were having the federal elections, I myself, and at the time they were working on they were building the water harbor. They would have what known as the Costain trucks. They were just big, heavy trucks that would carry huge boulders and blocks, tons. Uh, and they were known for SL. That was a special license. That was the first time we had that kind of category of vehicle identification in Barbados. And Mr. Barr, I heard Mr. Barr say in a meeting in Spoonerson that the Barbados Labour Party should have given that job to the men with the men who have the trucks, who transport canes from the factories,
Mm.
rather than let Costain bring in these big trucks to deprive these small men of jobs. Now you have to remember that Mr. Barrow and Mr. Adams Sograti, that has became, were both on both parties opposed to democratic socialism, where democratic socialism means that the government, the authorities have a responsibility, an activist role to take care of the general population and not leave them to their own downfalls. Actually, that's an activist role. So the both parties believe in that. Although I haven't heard anybody in the BLP mention democratic socialism in years, I remember hearing Ralph Thorne when he was aligning himself with the Democratic Party reaffirm the commitment to democratic socialism. But there were different strands of democratic socialism. There was the Fabian style, which Segretti belonged to, which held that yes, we're democratic socialism, but that we would do it more gradually, we would reform, we evolve into a situation. While then there was another school of thought, which Mr. Barr and Mr. Adams would tell you he's a Fabian socialist, while Mr. Barr would tell you he's a Lasky. He followed the program and the philosophy of Karl Lasky, who was more revolutionary and felt that workers should have revolution and things would be much more in a much more dynamic and aggressive manner. So there was this clash between Mr. Adams and Mr. Barr over, like I said before, Mr. Barr was 23 years younger than Mr. Segretti, and to all intents and purposes, different generations. So we're seeing life differently. But when Segretti won the government in 1951, which when he brought about universal adult suffrage, he realized that while the political power and governmental power had been wrested from the hands of the white dominants, the planters, the big businessmen, he still needed the business, he still needed the white people who own capital, who had assets that the country need to maintain its own development. And therefore, those have to be accommodated, and they will work with them. That was his approach, and that helped to lay the groundwork for what Mr. For example, Mr. Segretti dealt heavily with a man called Kier Hunt, Sir King of Hunt. He's died now, father of the late Robin Hunt, who was a big minister, but he incorporated these certain white persons to help aid the development of Barbados and not treat them in a hostile manner because they were Barbadians also.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So because there was not obvious and overt and explicit denunciation of white people, there was this feeling. It was encouraged by some people that the Barbados Labour Party was therefore by its very existence pro big business as against the DLP, which did not advocate that explicitly. But both parties had as a matter of fact, it is noteworthy that while this criticism was made of the Barbados Labour Party as Segretti, Mr. Barr himself had his own white colleagues within the party. In fact, as a matter of fact, it is said that the first member on the books when the Democratic Labour Party was called was a white businessman lawyer called Douglas Lynch, who worked at the SNC. And then Mr. Barr himself had Peter Morgan as a minister.
Minister of Tourism.
Right, and then he
but Glenn, before you go to Douglas Lynch was not allowed to join the party till the day after, because they didn't want it to be seen as though a businessman. So Douglas Lynch left the party form on the first. Douglas Lynch became a member on the second.
But he had the first membership. He's member number one. From all the he was member number one.
Yeah. They didn't allow him to join.
The other thing about Mr. Barr also, I'd seen a magazine where Mr. Barr said this is before he became premier, where he said that if he had his way, he would put all the white people in Barbados under Lord Combermere. The Lord Combermere was a government tug, led after Lord Combermere, after which Combermere School is dead. And he would take the Barr to sea and pull the plug. So there was this perception that the Barra and the DLP were all more pro-black and less pro-white than the Barbados Labour Party. But what happened after that then is that the after the split between Mr. Walker, there was also a split between Mr. Walker and Mr. Adams over Mr. Walker. This is Sir Frank Walker, who was General Secretary of the Trade Union, which the Barbados Labour Party helped to form started in 1941, etc. So Glyne had been the first president, but there was a falling out over the allocation of ministerial posts in 1954. So it was felt then that the Barbados Labour Party was not as connected to the public as it was. But then when you look at the but that reputation did not have any currency for a long time until I said when Don Blackman, who was the Minister of Transport and Work, had a clash with his colleagues. I remember it well because I was personal assistant to Prime Minister Adams, and it was the longest cabinet meeting that went on until almost 10:30, 11 the night. It was a long meeting, and there was all the reports that I was not there, but I got enough reports from different sources. Don Blackman, who himself, Don Blackman said he was regarded by his colleagues of trying to monopolize and dominate the services, the patronage, the jobs. He was Minister of Transport, or where they said that any opening in that country was well paved. People's yards, people's up the steps, around the house, everything was paved, but it was paved well because while other MPs in other constituencies were suffering and they were not having equal access to that. And there was a big clash at this meeting, and he had no single ally to defend him. And it was so tough on him that he grabbed his stuff and walked out. Went back to Mr. Barr next day, and Mr. Barr said he never left. So he's the one who said he was running because of the white shadows who stayed in the background and were manipulating the Barbados Labour Party and getting the advantages over the blacks. And he was against it. Now you remember, he said he was going to hold a public meeting in the Ivy on a Friday night to tell all the details about this white domination of the white shadows. The White Shadows was, I think, a takeoff. There was a popular television program in Barbados called, with Barnum calling his Dark Shadows. And so if he called him the White Shadows to deal with it right. So he sent this notice out that he's going to have a meeting in the Ivy on a Friday night to tell all about the White Shadows. I was at the meeting when Mr. Adams got the message, and then Mr. Adams said about the message, he said, well, let Dr. Blackman know that if he hold meetings on Friday night, I will hold one on the same spot on the Sunday night and give the full picture. But no meeting ever held. But the thing is that I don't know. There was never any explicit denunciation of the white. There was not an active promotion of the blacks. But when the issue that Ms. Bradshaw dealt with on the air, I thought it was very poorly handled. I think she was too busy trying to prove that she was right and these contractors were wrong with listening to the pleading. If she had listened carefully and had not been so tone deaf to their pleading, they were asking for another meeting to solve the problem. And as well, you were right when you said that Ingrid Nedgel had promised them work. That I double check it, and it is true. He called. There had been some problems when there were pairs in Highway 1, and there were complaints that the small black businessmen were late. They weren't doing good work. There were a lot of complaints. So he went on the spot himself, called a meeting next morning on the Monday or something at his office. All the contractors, include the big ones, the small ones, the white ones, and the black ones. I believe, and also I've been told that there's several white small contractors in Barbados. So when the small contractors get penalized, it's not only the blacks, it's the white. But she could have listened to them, and having said that, she threw the Prime Minister in the bus because she said this program was accelerated by was called for by the Prime Minister's accelerated Maryland paving program, and it had to be done. And these people were not equipped; they didn't have the equipment and whatnot. But those policies they're not in the Constitution. They're policies that decisions made by human beings for human beings, and they can be changed if you have the sensitivity. And I think she made a mistake in not really listening to them. But I was told that Ingrid did call the meeting and told them a long-standing problem had been the availability of the hot mix to do the paving. I wanted there was only one major producer and supplier who was also a competitor for construction and road building, and so therefore first were often left to wait while the producer was able to look after his own business first. So they were advised to go and buy hot milk plants, which they did. So they were equipped. But Goodnetto promised that they would get work because he knew there was work out there. But then when he was reshuffled out to hell, nobody seemingly followed through.
Mm.
And that is went wrong. But I also remember that when that happened, it made me remember that it's a question of having empathy and sympathy in dealing with persons and identifying with their cause and trying to find a solution, not to stand on ceremony and say who's right or wrong. I remember there were a couple of times when working with Prime Minister Asa, sorry, there was a time when Mr. Reside, Keith Reside, his company, Reside Company, was being crowded out of the business. And Mr. Adams, I'm sorry, Mr. Arthur decided that cannot be right. You should have more than one or two or three. You should have at least one or two black business like anybody else too. And he said, and I know it because he told me to intervene on it. He told me to have a word with the chairman of the board of Barbados National Bank, who happened to be Randall McLean, Maxine McLean's brother. And the arrangement was they gave the assurance that the government would give contracts to Mr. Reside. He would get contract. The company would get contract. What would happen is that the payment would go. The BNB would give Mr. Reside financing, and the payment will go first. The check will go to the BNB, and when they take what is there, then the rest goes to Mr. Reside. That's what brought Reside back to longevity and stability award, and it worked very well. And he was in St. Road building and paving and construction business. Then I also remember another when Tom Grant bought Sam Lawrence Castle.
Okay.
He was Sam Lawrence Castle used to be owned, the legendary Sam Lawrence Castle, which had been demolished, etc., now replaced by Sam Lawrence Wyndham or whatever it's called. Mm-hmm. He wanted to get doors open for him. He called Mr. Arthur and asked to deal with it for him. And he wanted doors open. And it was a sign to make contact so that he was able to start to possibly be in a position to buy Sam Lawrence Castle. I told Mr. Arthur, I think it'd be a good thing if, as a reversal of history, a black man could own Sam Lawrence Castle. So that is how that came about. So I'm saying that there are ways and means of intervening, being creative, listening to persons, and the mistake is, I think, that it has rekindled this idea that I have not been able to find in any statement, any document, any manifesto, any manifestation, any declaration by the BLP over time that it was anti-white and pro-black. None. So therefore, there's no official record. I think what happens is that different leaders from time had different emphasis, different ways of doing what they were doing to achieve what Dr. Brown said he was going to redress the imbalance. Right? He said his job was to redress that imbalance. But so I'm saying that except for now, the Barbados Labour Party has never really had a consistent and a proven history of disadvantage consistently, or as a matter of policy, disadvantaging black businessmen. As a matter of fact, when we had when the rural and the urban different commissions were set up, Urban Development Commission, Rural Development Commission, there was a policy where, apart from repairing houses, etc., fixing people's houses, building houses for the needy, etc., that it would give people who were allowed to borrow money to make businesses and cultivate a cadre of businessmen out of those same institutions. I don't know how it became the program, but that was the idea. That was the initial program where people became businessmen out of that. So there was a consistent program. But the thing is, I have never known any this policy where so much of the work is being done, is being given to a small group of people in such a short period of time. It is unknown. So I think so that has deliberately played back to the narrative that the Barbados Labour Party is the party of big business, the party of white business, as against the priority of all businesses in the community. So well, from my research, I cannot say, there's nothing, like I said, that proves that point. But there are instances where other persons would treat things in a particular way that might be the accusation. And for the record, when it came to the issue of a contract to build a road that was a waterway site over Cole Williams, C.O. Williams, they went to court, and it was done on the Cole Williams thought that they were disadvantaged in the decision, but they went to court under the Administrative Review Act. Is that what it's called, Caswell? Administrative Review Act, where the law.
You are muted.
The Administrative Justice Act. They call it AJA for short.
Right, where governments can be called to account for the behavior or decisions if people feel that they've been disadvantaged. There's actually a law which is done to do that.
Yeah.
Right. I hope that. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to say this has been very educational because some of the things that you're talking about, Mr. Lynch, I remember reading that when I was studying that he was the first member of the party, and it was interesting that he was a white man, and also when you think of Peter Morgan, who was white and wrote a book on Mr. Barrow, The Life and Times of Errol Barrow, written by Mr. Peter Morgan. Yes. Well, one more comment.
Before you go.
We've gone over time. Just your last comment on this
Yeah.
particular.
Let me show how Mr. Barrow had his two personas, so to speak. As a reporter at The Advocate, there's a thing called ecstasy, which still exists today, owned by the Goddards. Every few weekends, Mr. Barrow and his and Paul Mandeville, the photographer, they would go down. They would take the Goddards yacht and go down to the Grenadines and snorkel and fish, etc. So therefore, there was no overt and no deliberate policy of racism then being instituted in that kind of form in Barbados.
That is so true. And the boat, we were able to film the boat. The boat still existed.
Yes, it's still there, right? Yeah. And the photographs in the paper of Mr. Barrow and his crew going down, etc. And Barbados accepted that as a way it should, because they felt that you couldn't go and seize people's property. You couldn't do a Mugabe thing and ruin the country for that kind of extraordinary revolutionary effort to dispossess people, that there was a better way of keeping the society together. That's why the advance that Barbados made as developed politically, socially, economically was once described as a quiet revolution. Revolution, but quietly done.
Yes, well, thank you, Mr. Murray. Again, very educational. People are loving it. They say it's a civics class. Thank you so much. We have Miss McLean is been waiting to talk to us about the estimates. Miss McLean, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're a little late, but we had a whole lot. This show been moving, Mr. Franklin, the whole night. We have a lot going on, and we put a couple minutes in there for you to be as tight as possible and to tell us about what happened at the estimates, right? We're going to go on a little extra tonight. Go ahead, please.
Maxine, you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. I was doing something else at the same time while I was waiting. I'll be fairly quick because I think, as you know, there's so much to happen. But since we had the last session where I talked about the tourism, which was the head or the ministry, to use the word head, that was discussed. We have now had the issue of agriculture, and there are a couple of things there. I mean, and I think that, well, they actually had 2 days of debate, and you know, the format is that the ministers get to quiz after the 10-minute presentation, first from the minister and then the leader of the opposition. you have a series of questions. Now, I think generally, and they did go over the 6 hours, I think is the initial allocation, but they can suspend the standing orders and talk about that. But I want to touch on two things. That, I mean, of course, well, you heard about the issue of, I think the leader of the opposition raised a number of things, including sugar. And then there was the issue of medicinal marijuana, and of course the initiatives with Suriname, which seem to have panned out to nothing at this point, and Guyana. But, and I preface my comments about sugar by flagging the absence to date of the Prime Minister. Prime Minister is also the Minister of Finance, and she has not, I certainly have not seen her in Parliament since the estimates began. And I literally sat through the first day from beginning to end. And it is unusual. And I would say it's even more unusual because something was introduced in the debate yesterday when the minister flagged something we'd heard about, and I know Caswell and I would have weighed in on this, and that is the privatization, I was trying to find the right word, of the sugar industry, at least the sugar factory, sugar production, because part of the industry was always private in terms of some of the major growers of sugar cane. Now, what I find interesting is that, and I speak as a cooperator, a member of the cooperative movement, and I will say up front that because I believe in the principles of the cooperative, I joined last year the energy co-op. And what we heard was that we now have a phenomenon where former sugar workers and persons like myself, because I am part of the energy co-op, effectively can invest in that. Now, for me, if it works as I hope it will work, and there's no effort, and how should I put it? I don't want to speak negatively. I tend to speak positively. If it works as it can work, and the things that are possible happen, for me, it is what I call a seminal moment in our history. I recall being part of what they call the mutual affair, when a lot of people discovered, for example, that as shareholders in what was the mutual insurance company, as policyholders, we were shareholders. It was kept from us. And there's a long story. I don't have time to go into that. 40 years ago, like Caswell, I was part of the credit union movement, which between 1983, when my credit union was formed along with the Barbados Workers Union, the credit union movement moved from a few thousand people, I would say. We had the old Shamrock, which was the first one, I think the first credit union. We had public workers, but there was a tide, which of interest and young people, and coincidentally, a lot of those same people are involved in this initiative. And so what I'm saying, for me, if what has been promised and it will require commitment on our parts as well, then we are seeing the industry which brought us here. And by the way, Marcia, I'm wearing an outfit from Ghana. Today is Ghana's Independence Day.
Yes, a happy Independence, Ghana.
And so the ownership, because we are consumers, we are the ones who consume sugar, we are the ones who on the Alen consume rum. And I say we, I talking about the majority population that look like me, you, and Caswell. And I am concerned that when we talk about tourism, yes, there's local participation and there's some local Black participation, and I make no apologies for referring to it. We tend to be consumers. What I find interesting is that the Minister of Finance, the Prime Minister, who would have been part of this process, was not there to celebrate this moment, because I see it as an important moment. And I put the question to the Prime Minister, is this not important to you? Is this not something to celebrate? Is it something that you really are not interested in or keen about? So I want to put that there. And I hope, Marcy, at some point I can come back and speak to the potential that there is. Because if you are controlling, and I'll make one point that was made, I was skeptical, as I said, I believed it in principle, but I personally took the step prior to that to become a member of the co-op, because I have seen the transformative power of the financial co-ops, that's the credit unions. And therefore, as I said back then, if the credit union membership can be leveraged, the financing of this can happen if the things that are supposed to happen, because there are other things. And recognize this, there are two things that I'll say quickly, and then I'll talk about medicinal marijuana. Sugar production in Barbados is not something that will easily go away, because if you know anything about the soils of Barbados, and we talk about agriculture, there's intercropping that takes place. In other words, without sugar cultivation, production of root crops like the cassava that you're growing at home, Marcy, and I hope I will get some later on, the sweet potatoes, the yams, and so on, there's a rotation that happens, and they are complementary. And
Yes.
so at the end of the day, and apart from that, I think I mentioned this here before. I recall the year that St. Kitts went out of sugar cultivation. I was there for a meeting at the time when it was the last day, and about a year and a half later, I went back, and that place was overrun with bush. So from an aesthetic point of view, from the aesthetics of it, how the place looks, the ceasing of cane production can have a very negative look on the landscape. So there's also that value as well. So I really, and I will say that and move on. My question to the Prime Minister, is this something that you really are enthusiastic about, or is it something worth celebrating? But I will come back to that. The second one that was raised by the leader of the opposition as a major issue is the whole question of the medicinal marijuana industry. We heard a lot about it. And I have some notes here, and I will show you them. You see, I didn't keep it too long because the name of the person with whom I spoke, because I have a habit of writing. Marcy, when you talk to me, I write, because I don't keep things here. I put them on paper, especially when they're important issues we're discussing. But on the 8th of November 2021, I had a discussion with somebody, a former academic, a scientist who understood and who actually has done a lot of work in this whole area of medicinal cannabis. And my question to him was, I've heard the government talking about this. My question is, what is your forecast for this industry? And I would read some of the words that he said to me, because I wrote them down. He said, very confused picture at the moment. That was 2021. Mm-hmm. He was talking about the legislation. I know we passed some legislation, but he flagged the whole issue of implementation, right? So at one point they were talking about cultivation, and the question was, what do we do when we grow this thing? Now, I heard the minister say something, and for me now, I have to put on my former minister's hat. When the issue was raised by the leader of the opposition about the restriction when it comes to monies generated from medicinal cannabis, and so on. Marijuana production in the US is legal in some states. But at the federal level, it is still illegal. And because we have had, as a jurisdiction that is involved in international business, and we talk about, and we need to engage in correspondent banking, it is 17 million YouTube user. They've spent about $17 million today, but so it's probably $4 million a year. Yeah, it was about maybe about 4 million a year so far. So it's almost 20, but I think the number given was 17 million. So the point that was made, and the question was made, and I did hear she's somebody older. I'm sorry, I didn't write her name down. She has a double bar. Kazi may be able to tell me. She was in the Senate at one point. Senator somebody Odell, something Odell.
Oh, Roberts.
Odell Roberts or Odell Roberts. Mm. Okay, and she was saying that she was going to try to find a solution. That was a comment she made in in relation to the problem of the inability to deposit those monies in banks because of the issues relating to correspondent banking and so on, and international regulations. Now, she cannot do anything.
No, she can't do a thing. But I don't want to thank you,
No,
but
you go ahead. You go ahead.
that I highlighted that as a member of the Senate when it came up. I told them that I did research, and my research suggested me that there's some states in the United States that have marijuana legal, but the men have to store the money in barrels in their barn because they cannot
Exactly.
carry over state lines. And I asked them how they're going to do that, and everybody ignored me. I was surprised to hear underwear saying that the same thing. No, they didn't have any foresight. It will not work. It cannot work.
And he said something, and I asked the minister to show me where, because I had to query, because he made reference to, he was trying to suggest that the previous administration had a cabinet paper, and I asked my colleagues, I have my minutes from my cabinet papers. What I do recall was that there was a cabinet paper brought by the Minister of Health to give permission to, I don't know if it is drug farm, the head of the drug service, based on requests from some physicians wanting to prescribe, to give them permission to probably import it. But I do not recall, and I mean, as I said, I don't rely on my memory, so I would have to check my records, but I do not recall, and I would love the Minister of Agriculture to point me to the date of the cabinet paper, or even just the year and month, and I can search and find it, that we had spent time discussing an industry. And even if a cabinet paper had come, it would have been discussed, and I can tell you that those issues would have been put on the table. So don't I'm not going to belabor that point, but I couldn't let that go as a former cabinet member, because I have to defend my tenure. But that's it. So the point that is one of the points. The other thing is that in looking at this whole industry, the conversation I had, we did some comparisons between Barbados, Jamaica, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And he made the point that in relation to both of those jurisdictions, even though marijuana was illegal, they both had a reputation for producing. I mean, I've never smoked it, so I don't know good, bad, or indifferent. But they have a reputation for, they're associated with marijuana, and perhaps quality, of some particular quality. So the concern really was that what exactly are we getting to? How prepared are we for this? And then the whole question of investors, that as with any business, turnaround time, for want of a better word, from idea to implementation, businesses don't wait around to get things in place. And in fact, one of the things you saw, even in the context of Jamaica, okay, for example, the word he used was Barbados faces what he calls a lack of authenticity when it comes to the familiarity with marijuana cultivation, even though we're talking about marijuana for medicinal purposes. So he also was concerned that with the time lag, investors lose interest. Then there's, of course, the other concern that I have, which wasn't really touched on. What is the state of the global medicinal marijuana industry? And I recall distinctly when I was foreign minister, the now Minister of Finance, I think that's his title, of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Camilo Gonzalez, made the point at a meeting we had at that time. I think he was ambassador, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, ambassador to the United Nations. He made the point that as a small country, persons in St. Vincent and the Grenadines were making money from marijuana because it was illegal. But once you get into legalizing it, you are now facing competition from major players. And in fact, the question was, how do you find a niche for yourself that will make it viable? Now, I think what they have set up are clinics. Now, Jamaica has, I believe, gone into some what I would call recreational type arrangements. I made a note of the cannabis. They call it cannabis and cannatourism. and they have a kaya. Well, you know, Marcia, the word kaya, as they say, is used, and so there's a company
Yeah.
called Kaya Herb House, and they were one of the first recipients. So in all of that, you know, I heard Miss the name was there just now.
Shanique Roberts Odell.
Mrs. Odell or Ms. Odell,
Right.
Roberts Odell, um, indicate that they were doing all of this preparation. But I will say this, Marcia, my prediction is that this industry will have a hard time based on I've only given a couple examples because I know we are facing time constraints. You know, a couple examples of the challenges, and in fact, I believe that the government really has to revisit that. I have very little optimism about it. I would say in terms of agriculture, I heard several explanations given by officers and so on, and for me, the fact that 2 days would have been spent exploring issues in agriculture was positive for me because, as you know, I have a great interest in seeing, and I've been working with some young people in agriculture. I mean, it continues to be a tough area, but there are a lot of interesting prospects, and I trust that there's a shift because I know there was a time when there was a notion. I remember the late Prime Minister Arthur used to say, you know, let the money fetch its highest economic value. But when it comes to things like food security and food safety, we've seen what disasters and in the most recent situation with the Panama Canal, and just before that, COVID, that has upset the whole global logistics, and we better be in a position to feed ourselves. And I think that you know, food production goes hand in hand with sugarcane production. And so I think it's an area where I believe there's a lot more to be explored, and there are opportunities there which I trust would be given serious consideration. Of course, in all of that, there was some discussion of addressing the problem of water, access to water at a reasonable, you know, at reasonable rates. But I wait to hear some more, and I don't know if I should do this, but as a credit unionist, cooperate at heart, I would say to cooperators, to Barbadians, especially, you know, those who are credit unionists like myself, if there's an opportunity for us to pool our resources, and I would say explore that opportunity further.
Yeah.
So I think, you know,
Thank you.
Glyne wants to say something.
Yes. I saw his hand earlier, but I was allowing you to finish your segment. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Go ahead, Mr.
Yeah,
Murray.
thanks for accommodating me. Where the question of the discussion in Parliament on the marijuana, or would like to be intended to be marijuana cannabis industry in Barbados, what struck me is how naive they seem to be. I've been reading about banking and an ability to bank and ship money and move money since the 1990s. But when I listened to the presentation in the House yesterday, it seemed as though they only discovered this thing after they got into the business, and it was very unconvincing, very naive, and I think that this is going to become a white elephant, or maybe a puff of smoke, man. Maybe to use would be a more appropriate analogy. And I was very disappointed that they were just going through the motions, and there was no clear plan. There's no plan. There's no strategy. There's no point A, point B, action A, action B. No fallback. That you never got any idea that they had, and any idea what to do next. They were waiting for things to come to them and things to happen. And what bothered me is that I was taught that with the international image and prestige and popularity of the Prime Minister, that those would open doors for Barbados, and that some of the restrictions that are applied to that, you know, because I saw a soft hand would have been dealt Barbados, and they would not be stuck where they seem to be right now, and that is something I thought that is worth considering. It's a competitive world.
It
and
is.
when you get, I mean, there are people who, for what my reading there, There are people going to experiment with strains and strains for different things. It's a highly scientific. It's not just putting something in your backyard and you put what you got and sell it. You have to have it's a thorough, very highly sophisticated scientific process that we need to get
industry.
if we're going to that we need to get on. Can I say something about the sugar?
Well,
Um,
I
I,
don't know. I don't know. We will get any special treatment as a country. You know, as the rules change in the
I was being
U.S. For
facetious.
example, if they legalize
I was
it,
being
trust me,
facetious.
the Americans will take over. I know
I was being
the
facetious.
Americans will then take over the industry in a way. Yeah, I know. So it
Yeah.
is. In fact, I would suggest that a fraction of the money that they're putting into this going to helping young people address our issues about food safety and food security. You know, divert
The other thing
a
is,
couple $1 million
I
Oh,
into
one second.
really helping.
Let Mr. Murray finish his thought.
no,
Go ahead.
I just want to add that I was told that the Prime Minister was in Parliament on Monday. So maybe she's in the country. She was in Parliament having meetings, etc. But she was no,
She was not in the chamber.
she was not in
She
the
was not
chamber.
in
She
the
was
chamber much, if
in
at
the
all.
Parliament building. In the Parliament building, I
Yeah, she
was
was in
told.
Parliament then.
Yeah, because
Right.
I parked in the Parliament building on Monday, and I understood that she was there.
Okay. All right.
But
The other
Uh,
thing on the
I
agriculture,
haven't seen her.
Mr. McLean, help me. I also was a credit unionist. I was at one time president of the media co-op at the nation, and I took them in some different directions, taught them how to invest in government papers and whatnot. So because at that time they were just putting it in the
Mhm.
bank. But what concerns me about the this new cooperative venture, the sugar power venture, sugar energy has me very skeptical. It's like hope and energy, hope and energy. I'm very skeptical about that combination. What I don't understand is that what bothers me is that there are people who seem to be making decisions on sentimental grounds. A big thing was made that if before as the descent of slaves could now show only sugar industry will do it. That's a little too
Well, I
that is fine, but you don't make big decisions on that.
let me just stick a pin right there. Let me because we I know that I'm looking at time. I don't get
Yes.
sentimental when it comes to my money. You understand? And I think that what I mean that part is call it historic, sociological, whatever. But at the end of the day, well, I don't know. I consume sugar. I do drink rum now and again. I drink rum. I don't ever want to put it in there again because somebody. I drink alcohol and rum is one of the things that I would consume in rum punch or whatever. My concern is that if there's an industry and there's been an analysis presented which breaks it down. There are two companies, first of all, right?
Right, I
So
understand
I
that.
would say I don't have the time now to go through it, but I think that, as I said, I began being a skeptic.
But
But I also what I recognize, and I think what people need to do is walk through the analysis, and let me put it this way: with the power of pooling, we can minimize individual risk. We are the only people who. So I noticed Marcia and Kimar is here, but I think I would want to spend some time, maybe not even here, but in another forum or even here, walking people through how I see this whole power. And this is something, and the reason why I say this, 20 21 years ago, almost now, I sat down trying to show credit unions how we can leverage our membership to mobilize resources that would minimize, as I say, risk to ourselves, but create opportunities. But I'll do that another time because I'm conscious that we are past 9:30. Well, we're on 9:30 now. So
Yes. Thank you, Miss McLean, and for being conscious of
don't thank
Mr. Franklin. Go
the thing
ahead
yet
just before.
because I want to ask Maxine something because I have in my hand, you know me, I always like walk with my books. I have the estimates here.
should
Maxine,
I grab mine?
I am
Let me,
going
let
through
me grab mine. Hold on. I'm listening.
yeah,
Let me grab mine.
I am going through the estimate.
Mhm.
All right, and 8 and 5 is 13.
Which head are you looking at?
I'm looking at the Prime Minister's office and the Ministry of
Okay.
Finance. The
Okay.
Prime Minister's office will be spending $188 million
Nearly
about
$200 million. More than
$188 million,
I thought to get 80 something.
right? And also one of the other prime minister's ministries will be spending another 185 million, the Ministry of Finance.
Yes.
So you have 8 and 5, 13,
188.
8 and 6 and 1 is 17, 373 million dollars.
Right.
That the prime minister is responsible for spending of Barbados money. She should be in the house giving account and being quizzed on how she is going to spend all this money. She is spending more money, but I've been going through, but I can't remember saying, but can you spend more money, prime minister?
I don't think there's any, you would have to add up a number of heads, because if you look at agriculture is about 85 million. Tourism is I would have to pull up tourism. Education, which is one of the biggest ministries, is education is what? Let me look and see. Education is 417,315,000. So when you add up the two ministries of the prime minister, it is close to education. Now, education and health are the two largest heads, the two largest allocations. But if you went through several ministries, in fact, what I will undertake to do is to see how much ministries those two cover when you aggregate some other ministries. But and you made an important point, Casual. This book is heavy, so let me put it down. The apart from being Minister of Finance and Prime Minister, you are responsible, and head of cabinet, of course. You're responsible for two significant ministries. Well, let's look at the Prime Minister's office, for example, separated from Ministry of Finance. That is a significant amount of money, and perhaps at some point we can go back and look at it, Caswell, and ask ourselves what exactly is happening there. But I don't think
we can prepare for that on Friday. Okay.
Okay, fine.
If you add in cabinet office, it's 396 million.
Each night.
Okay. So it's almost as big as education.
Yeah.
Tonight we're going to touch on the estimates, guys. So if you can hold that thought, keep researching it, and then let's have another section with that. Kimar, good night. How are you?
Good night. I am fine. How are you?
Good night, Mr. Kimar.
We are doing good. Caswell was talking about you earlier in the program in his segment. He was talking about the Hope Project and all these
Mr.
people.
Researcher himself.
Yes, Mr. Researcher himself is here, and let the people. You have the people resigning. I'm getting messages. Let me read the message I have here to back up Caswell. The message says today, March the 6th, 3 senior employees resigned from the Hope project. The project director, the finance manager, and the internal audit manager. But we got that at 8:30, but Caswell told us a little after 7. And it was said that 2 other staff members resigned last month and are leaving next week.
Yeah, they give notice.
Yeah. So something is happening there, Kimar. What you gonna do to the people now?
Well, I didn't do anything per se, but to use the education that I received through the CASHLESS of this country to highlight what I always thought to be something strange happening.
Right. I can't hear you very well. You seem a little muffled. Is it just me? Is my ears or?
Yeah. How about now? Better now?
Yeah, keep going. Let me see.
Yes. Right. I was saying I didn't do anything per se. I actually heard the news this evening. But after the show started, I heard, but I was on the road, so I didn't get to read it. Then I got a call from someone who said that they sent some text messages to the phone. And when I read it, I was like, whoa. But I thought it was one. All right. But to hear that 3 persons are resigning, that's very interesting. Interesting enough that we brought out information with slides, presentation, and everything on the show, detailing what we suspected was happening on that whole project. Now, we first raised this issue, and it took us quite a while before we came to the public, we mentioned it, we pull back. And we mention it again, we pull back.
That's true.
And I know after this weekend, we heard the Minister of Housing, Sutherland, gassing up and alarming about the whole project and how they were going to build all of these houses under the whole project and how he's going to address the whole houses at pool because the dams walking about, waving about like a flag, and he was going on and on and on, right? But today, look what we have. But remember, he promised us that he was going to address these houses probably a day after we first raised them, right? And he came and said, well, he's going to address them. And he never did. So no, he has some more issues to come and explain. But it's not really him. Now I want an explanation from is Mr. William Duguid. When he was the substantive Minister of Housing who actually wrote out this project. This was rolled out under Mr. Duguid. So Mr. Duguid needs to come to the public and give us a full expose as to what happened under his tenure as the Minister of Housing as it relates to this whole project. We want a full detailed explanation which goes beyond what we've seen on those slides. And we want some facts as it relates to those 3 persons who have now resigned from the whole project. And we want some answers. And I really hope that the leader of the opposition takes this one up by the neck and go with it, because this reminds me of the Harvard housing scandal. Right? We've had housing scandals previously in Barbados, if you all remember the Harvard housing scandal with Clay Maskell. And then we had the GEMS issue before. So we've had countless discrepancies particularly under the Barbados part as it relates to real estate and these type of property transactions. But I don't think I need to go on much more with this. We can clearly see something is definitely wrong. We need answers from Mr. Duguid. We need answers from the Prime Minister, because this whole project has been heralded all over the world as some saving grace for Barbados. I saw articles on international websites speaking about how great this whole project is. I wish they would report now on it, what exactly and how great it is that 3 people can now be resigning, chairman's resigning for doing wrong, contracts being issued to contractors without tender, the minister coming back and lying and saying that it was tendered when he knew it wasn't tendered. All types of wrong things are happening in that ministry. And we need some answers, and we need some people going home, fired, removed from office.
Question for you, Kimar. What kind of company is this? Because I know it's a government project. Who are these people? I don't know that in terms, are these public? I'm trying, between you and Caswell may help, because, we had Tony Hoyers before he was chair or something. And he went, then you had a retired permanent secretary, Mr. Lane was involved there, and he seemed to have gone along. So these are in addition, these are before the ones you mentioned. But I'm trying to understand the legal arrangements in relation to this company, what kind of company it is. I don't know if you came across.
Timar, can you answer that? Do you know what kind of company it is? And then you can continue your presentation.
Yeah, but the National Housing Corporation was restructured under the IMF Birth Plan, and government created an additional entity called Hope Inc. And Hope Inc. is 100% owned by government, but it is not a SOE registered on government books. So it should be registered at CAIPO as a private organization, but 100% owned by government.
It is an SOE because it's state-owned enterprise. It's owned by government. It is not a statutory board. Because if it's a statutory board, it would have its own legislation that set it up. This was set up like any company. Like if Marcy Weeks wants to set up Marcy Weeks and Company Limited, that's what National Housing or whoever they did that, and they form it under the Companies Act. So it is not governed by any particular rules made by Parliament other than the Companies Act. So it is like any ordinary company that did that with the airport. The airport is Grand Island International Airport Inc. And they do all kind of madness up there as well. When you want to take things from the public to see, because these companies don't publish their reports. Nobody
Uh,
know.
I would, Marcia, I think it'd be interesting in the estimates that housing is yet to be debated.
Yeah. So it's
It
not
has
yet.
not been debated yet. Tomorrow will probably be cabinet. They'll probably come back on Friday. So Friday, they're into next week. I think the next one on the list
Housing
is
is not on the list to be debated.
so far.
No, not
Uh,
at all.
Not
Not at
at
all.
all. From my
that is
recollection, what's left is youth, environment, and health. I'm not sure of the order, but when I
Okay, so
checked,
so
it was,
so what we want to do is to make sure that Kimar, hold a second, Mr. Murray. Kimar, can you finish what else? Is there anything else that you want to speak on the show so that he gets the time that I'll allot it to him? Okay, go ahead, Kimar.
Well, not really, but I only wanted to speak other than that to the and the reason that is
We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
right. The only other issue I would have spoken on was the cybercrime bill and the
Yes.
fact that the government is no longer proceeding with it as part in the Senate for committees. So we have to see who they would invite to give the contributions as it relates to the impending amendments and changes that Marshall Cattle spoke about. Just that, and I just wanted to focus on this whole thing because I don't want to let this go. This is the scandal of the century, and I do not believe we should let this one go so easy.
Another point I was going to make
Yes.
that it has not. I think that I know I'm told that education needs. So it means that if housing is not debated, education is not debated. Those are major government departments, ministries, and whatnot.
Prime Minister's
And
office.
Prime Minister, those are places that I think the program should kick off. We should examine that. Why are these major institutions not examined? Is there something to hide? Let's investigate. We call them out. Say there are enough issues in education alone that should last a debate, or that should be a week to have it properly ventilated. So education, housing, health is supposed to come up with detail that is handled, but the government should not be allowed to run out of time or so manipulate that they don't have time to go for these major things. I think the public deserves to know what's happening in education when we talk of reform, health, this housing. I mean, as one who's seen public housing come to Barbados for the first time, to see what now this has become is a mockery. It's embarrassing. The mishandling, the whole way it's been dealt with is an embarrassment for the reputation of Barbados. Used to have a fine administration and well-run governance.
Yeah. Mr. Franklin, you were saying something earlier. I hope you remember it.
Well, about the. Let me just put it back up here for you.
While you're doing that, I think you
No, it's
also
I have it here.
you're right. You also
The
were making a comment about this whole thing of the estimates as well when I had asked Kimar to continue. Forgot that?
no, I was just correcting, and I don't want us to be inaccurate.
Yes.
All right, so I was just correcting an issue. I wasn't
Right.
trying to
And
make
you
a
had done it
substantive
correct.
point.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Franklin. Yes. Go ahead, sir.
You be talking about the post office and the only, I think it was yesterday and someday last week, they took the postmen to a meeting to inform them that they would be doing work for the electoral office, and they were trying to tell them that at first they were saying, well, they gotta do it. And now we come out, they're saying that it's voluntary, but they're putting pressure on them to do it even though it's voluntary. And what this is about, I'll read it for the people who didn't hear earlier. Under the Barbados Identity Management Act, Section 9(5), it says, a person who has been issued with an identification card or a national identity credential shall notify the chief registrant officer of any change in his place of residence within 30 days of the change of address by submitting the notice of change of residence form set out in the fourth schedule to the registrant officer, to a registrant officer. But at section 9.6 it says a person who contravenes subsection 1 and 5 is liable to pay to the commission an administrative penalty of $500. What that is saying to you is that if you move and you go and live someplace else, you have 30 days in which to tell the electoral office that you move. If not, you're liable to pay $500. But what they're doing now, they're getting the postmen to come to your house and check and see who in there. And if you move into this is what they're asking the postman to do. And I am angry because some postmen like it because they might get a little bit more dollars, a few more dollars, and everybody wants a few more dollars. But what is dangerous for the postman is that if the residents know that is the postman who inform them, then the next time that the postman come out, it ain't gonna be the dog running the postman. It can be somebody behind the postman with a cutlass. They must not put the public officers in danger, but because somebody get cruel, you move and the postman is who inform on you. Then the postman come back and you gotta pay that $500 and you ain't got it, what can happen? You can take it to the postman. Leave the postman to deliver letters. They're not spies. And why you want no postman spying on me? If I move, I move. What they need to do is, I know prior to this, you had 3 months to register your change of address, and if you didn't do it, nothing happened. It just means that you will continue to vote in the constituency that you were in before. You won't be able to vote in the new one because you have to be in the new constituency for 90 days before election time. So if you change your address and you are in there for 3 months, then you can't vote in that particular constituency. You got to go back in the old one and vote. So when they're saying it on to 30 days now, and then furthermore, there was no penalty before, now they're putting a penalty on you. And you are asking postmen to risk their lives. Postmen got enough running from big bulldogs and all kind of stuff, not to be running with a fellow with a sword saying you who inform on me, because they're going to give them little tablets and stuff and they're going to send all this information to the electoral office. They did not discuss it with any union to decide that this is going to be a change in the terms and conditions of the post. But like I said, I didn't discuss with any union. The unions didn't were at the meeting. It was only for the postmen. If they recognize unions as they say that they do, when you are changing workers' conditions, service terms and conditions, you send it to the workers' representative. You don't go and try to persuade the workers behind the representatives' back. That is nasty. This is the same government that's pushing the other unions, but it's only pushing them when they want something that the unions can deliver. No, they want to do is behind the unions' back. But my members in the post office called me because I ain't got a lot, but they got enough there. Called me this morning telling me this is what's going on, and before I could put on the phone, another one called me telling me, "Caswell, you can do something about this." Do not put postmen at risk, to endanger them because they want to use that national ID card because they didn't get your address and all kind of stuff to put in their system. They want the postman to do it for them so they can track you, and they're using these innocent postmen.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Maxine.
I just want to quickly correct Pedro.
Mr. Murray had his hand up. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Mr. Murray.
I was going to make the same point you made, Caswell, about having time under the electoral boundary system to change your address, etc. But to me, this is a moral and ethical. You've heard me make a few references to tyranny of the majority. There's an example. Where does the government find time to sit down and come up with these dangerous, insidious rules and penalties to people? Where did this is not, we have done it, we have not had this in Barbados for all the years we've been a colony, etc. Where has this come from? Why are they so busy doing it when there's so many other issues in housing, in education, health, etc. to look after? How do they find time to think of these things and put it into action too? I think it's unethical, immoral, and called for it. It's really quite disgusting.
This is yeah, Miss McLean. I see you're shaking your head. What's
I
your
just,
comment?
yeah, well, shaking my head saying they're creating a police state, but I just wanted to correct something because I think it was a major misunderstanding. I think it was Pedro Gemma who asked saying that there were no estimates. You had it a little while ago that there were no estimates. Some comment he made about not having estimates, but that's not what it was. I just wanted to, if you could find it again. There are what was raised by Glyne. He was asking whether or not there was going to be a debate during
Right.
the
Right.
estimates process of different heads. Well, the head is a ministry. Every ministry has an allocation, and for the information of I think it was Mr. Jemet Pedro, the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training has a figure of 417,315,778
Mhm.
and there was another ministry. I think the Ministry of Housing, because that was raised as one that we should probably debate. And the allocation to that ministry is 96,227,702 dollars. So that's 96,227,702 dollars. Now, what I want to suggest, Marcia, because and Glyne was saying that there's some critical ones. The government chooses the heads that they want. In the past, you tend to sometimes only to even get to two. I think Caswell mentioned this in a previous show, but under the new arrangement, they're saying at least six ministries. Unfortunately, the government chooses those, and Caswell did refer to a time when late Prime Minister Thompson said, "Tell us which heads you want to discuss." Now, what I would suggest here is such those that are of critical importance. You mentioned education, health is one that is to be discussed. Housing is one that, I mean, as Kimar pointed out, is a critical one that we may want at some point, because I don't know that the numbers will increase or they will change the heads that they've identified, to look at some of those things, and look at some of those things and see what are some of the issues in there. But as you said, education and health are the two biggest allocation.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I thought that we would have at least had education in there, you know.
You
Um,
thought so?
yeah,
I could see all the reasons why they wouldn't want to discuss education. But the reality is, though, this is why it is important we do. Let me just remind you of the process. With one single opposition person, okay, David Boyne wants to get back to Postmen. I thought Caswell had made the point, but if David will hold on a second, I think people also need to understand the process. Um, so hold it, David. Um, you make me lose my train of thought now. Basically, what I'm saying is that there's only one opposition voice in Parliament. So under the structure, for each ministry, he gets 10 minutes, like the minister, and then he gets to ask 3 questions.
yeah.
What he did, what I saw Mr. Thorne do recently was that he raised an issue of an area, and it covered 6 or 7 projects. But you can get back to Mr. Bowen. I don't know exactly what he wants to know. Caswell, you want to repeat what you said for David Bowen's
Yeah.
benefit?
Hang on. Kimar, you have any thoughts about this postman thing?
Um, I have to find out more. I actually this is the first time I heard it.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Right. I have to find out more. This is the first time I'm hearing about it.
Yes.
However, I know that the postman's job are on the track due to a pending restructuring that's going to come at the post service. The post office is supposed to be a revenue earner going forward for the government, and therefore postmen or the work of postmen is going to change. And I suspect what they're doing now is trying to integrate uh, the post the postman services into the electoral and boundaries commission, which is a very dangerous thing. As you know, during campaign season, it's usually the postmen who carry out circulars and stuff like that.
Mm,
And there's also the possibility that when you give your circulars to postmen, depending on if he's a B or a B, some of them don't get to the entire community. Candidates have experienced that in the field. So attempting to politicize the post office now, which is one of the main, uh, I would say, vehicles to everybody's house. They're putting them under direct government control. So if they are surveilling that kind of information, um, word reaching me is that the government is doing a survey as we speak in the field
Hmm.
about how is the representation going we have for the government, how is the MP responding or working in the constituencies.
Another one of those.
Yes,
Gee, he got real money there.
right. So this something is going on. The government is feeling the temperature smartly, and they're trying to use the postmen to gather intelligence to create political information because of possibly impending by elections or general election that they are planning early for. So what we should also look in the estimates for is the head for the Electoral and Boundaries Commission and to see if there have been any increases in allocations to substantial amounts because that is how I know the election was going to be held early and they mentioned it openly that the estimate had a large increase to the electoral and boundaries and that's how I know the election was going to be in 2022, right? So if we have that, or if we had a substantial increase, we would know that there are some by elections or possibly electoral planning at a big level uh, later down. And the postman is just a part of collecting data on the country and the status of the country right now politically. Um,
Uh,
sorry, go ahead.
if I can add to that, Kimar, I know this part of the IMF thinking I was told is that places like the post office should be privatized and commercialized. Uh, they tried it in the United States where they're gonna where I think FedEx or some that were all those big bidders were lined up to buy out the United States Postal Service, and it was a big hurrah, and they backed off. But I understand is they want to privatize, I say commercialize, corporatize as many of these actions and activities as possible to make money, but also to make government smaller. In other words, less government have involvement in your affairs. It was all to make profits for some institutions. Then they will provide the consultants, the equipment, the American economy will benefit from this very policy that they're trying to ram down our throat. So I think it's most really disconcerting. I
Yeah.
really am concerned.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Franklin.
I've said my piece. You know, I hope the postmen do not allow themselves to be tricked by a few dollars because they're only doing anything about it when one postman gets killed. Postmen should be there delivering mail and not out there to be spies for the government or spies for the political party in power because this information will not stay at the electoral office. You know, and I don't understand the rush to have you to change your address within the 90 days. You know, you like for instance, I have lived at more than one place in my little time. You know, at the same time, I had an official address in Rock Hall, but I was a young man and I had a few wild oats, and they had to be planted, and so I had more than one address, but you know, and I could have, you know, but the monk of time I spent at either one of them qualified me to vote. Either one, I could only vote in one election, you know. So what these people must do is to stop getting in people's business. This is too this is going too far now.
Caswell, if I may interject, what is the penalty if you don't renew your driver's license? You have to wait until the police catches you and you're reported and you go to court. You're fine. But there's this administrative penalty. The department's eyes act like the court and impose them.
You're posing a fine.
I'd heard it before, but I thought I'd misunderstood it. So I'm glad Caswell brought it back to the fore. But I would think that this is a cause on behalf of Barbadians and also because of the postmen that we should the program should try to examine and exhaust as much as possible because It is only the thin edge of the wedge that I'm saying. Another thin end of a wedge that is happening again. And we should resist it and expose it as much as we can.
Yes, as people are saying that we're becoming a police state. And we're going to, trust me, when Friday comes, this is something that we are going to look into some more, research some more, get more information for you. You do the researching as well. All of us that's watching tonight, get out there, get as much information that you can on this, and let us, sink our teeth in it, delve in it, and understand it. Before we close, I want to talk about, just quickly mention Dr. Sonia Browne, and who raised, it was a personal, she talked about her land tax, but she was also talking about the land tax of the people that live around her in her constituency, and her land tax had an increase of 40%, a 40% increase. And she's saying that she reached out to the minister, Ryan Strawn, and nothing happened. So she had to take her turn, even though it wasn't, we're talking about agriculture, but she felt she wanted to say something about it. So I don't know. I'm just putting a call out there. If you have received a bill for your land tax and it is way more than what you normally pay, please contact us about that. If your bill is way more than what you normally pay for your land tax, please let us know about that. 236-7000, 236-7000, right? Yeah. Mr. Franklin, you were saying something about that. I saw you moving in there.
Yes, I came forward. Um, I have enough information about that, but I wanted to do that on Friday because the this Dr. Browne got caught up in victimization. There is a particular officer at Bra who has the power to up or down these things and load them for his friends and raise them against other people. So what? But there's another officer at Browne who had a property near to Dr. Browne. So in order to victimize him, they classify his agricultural land and carry his value up. But they couldn't just carry his, so they carry his neighbors. But he protested. And they brought his back down, but they forget to bring out the other people who won. That's what happened. Dr. Browne got caught up in internal politics at Bra. They have actually had people, a guy who's divorcing his wife, and he gets somebody at Bra to lower the value of their property from 2 million to 1 million so that he will give, when his wife gets half, she will only get $500,000. A lot of this is happening. Well, I have the documents, don't worry. And you have senior officers in Browne got some really massive houses, but lower values. They don't. It's just corruption.
Wow.
It is absolute corruption down there. This is not no politicians being corrupt. This is senior public officers being corrupt, and because they have the power, and the for instance, the take Miss Rambo and carry it up high, you know. Again, I can't support her because she got a lot of money, but the zeroing on her and carry hers as opposed to the people around her, they're doing it all over. I got the documents, so let them come.
Yes. Wow. I hope Dr. Browne is listening. This is and she's BLP, but I tell you, I'm going to always commend people like that they can get up, Miss McLean, and speak their mind and stand up not just for themselves but for the other people. Look at what Mr. Franklin is going to be able to do. He's gone into research because of what she said, and that's what I'm trying to say about people. Even with Ralph Thorne, he's only one person, but he's asking questions. What we have to do is to take those questions and dig further. And widen the opposition and strengthen the opposition, and don't say, oh well, she's a BLP. Whatever happens to her. No, we are Barbadians. And if they have done that to her, they will do that to us. Okay?
Well, they are doing it. They are doing it to us. The guy who owned all those minibuses, fellow called Lee, he had a property, and the people, it was mortgaged. I'm not going to say who mortgaged it to him, but in order to sell his property and get it sold cheaply, they got the value halved,
Mm-hmm.
and his property is sold for less than half of what it's worth. All kind of things going on, and with the cooperation of officers in Brown, the corporation, connivance, and corruption.
It'd be good to know who bought it. That'd be interesting. So it's probably all
Marcia,
a plan.
Yeah,
Part of a
yeah.
plan.
we're getting ready to close, so we're gonna do our final comments. Miss McLean, I hear your voice, so we will go with
Yeah, I
you
was
first.
just correcting because I like you to have accurate information. Miss Dr.
Yes.
Browne's went up almost 3 times, not 40%. It went from 3,300 to 8,300 the next year. So not 40%, that's almost 3 times. 3,300 to 8,300.
Wow,
I see it here and I listened to her yesterday. So that is nothing to sneeze at. That is madness.
that is madness. Oh my
That
God.
is more than she makes now as a backbencher.
And that she said so too.
Wow.
So she
That is no, this is not right. And why wasn't Ryan Strawn? Why didn't he look into it? Why did it take Mr. Franklin outside of the government to find out what is going on? And is it because it's Dr. Browne? But anyway, we're closing up. Go ahead, Miss McLean, give us your.
I would close by commenting on this. I did not agree with the minister that it was not an issue for agriculture. From what she said, it sounds as though it was classified as agricultural land. And
Yes.
you cannot separate these things into silos. Agricultural land is taxed a certain way, and therefore you have to verify one way or the other. So to kick the can down the road was not, to my mind, acceptable. So I found that ridiculous when he said so, and but Caswell would explore that some more. So I think I just wanted to use the time to make that correction because a major concern for anybody looking at that.
Yeah, 3 times as much, not 40%. That's wrong.
33 to 83,
goodness.
$5,000 more at least.
251% increase. Thank you,
And not 40
Sinclair.
precisely.
Oh
Madness.
my gosh. 200. No man. That is crazy. Mr. Murray, any final words, sir?
Yes, I just on the question of land tax, I have over the years been opposed to the principle of land. I think land tax is an iniquitous tax. Right, yeah, but I feel that
They're hearing
you know, give,
turn off the
give
music, please. Go ahead.
I've come to, after observing what a poor job this government has done on public housing, as against virtually all the other governments in our history, starting from 1940 when they started Deacons Road and 41 Belfield, etc. We've had a consistent, and the way things are going, the average Barbarian will not get a chance to own a house. I feel that I modify my position on land tax. If land tax is connected, 75-80% should go into a fund to help finance public housing. We're not going to get under the IMF era. I think that if you're going to must have land tax, put it to use to have the Barbadians get housing. Otherwise, we're going to have a social uprising in this country at some point. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Murray. Himar.
As it relates to land tax, I believe that land taxes should be abolished. I don't believe that we should buy land and then have to pay taxes on it. And to give persons the power to raise land tax at their own judgment is basically a oppressive tool. I know situations where people who have some large properties pay so very little in land taxes compared to other people living in much smaller residential areas. Land tax is money that can be saved to allow black people who manage to gain land of a certain size. I think we should do away with land taxes in any future government, and to give the people a break. I feel, I understand Dr. Browne's plight, and that's a plight impacting on the middle class in Barbados, mainly black people, and that could really give us a break. Um, I guess end by saying again, we need to have some heads rolling as it relates to this whole project and the resignation, and something needs to be done about this from the top straight down to the bottom. Something needs to be done about the players involved in this project and to see how we can rekindle taxpayers' money on this type of wastage and corruption. It's time that we clean up Barbados from these corrupt politicians and to look towards a brighter future where we have less corruption and more punishment out there for ministers who think that it's okay to take $7,000 checks. And we need to do away with that and look towards a better, cleaner Barbados.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Kimar. And before Mr. Caswell speaks, I want to say, talk about Haiti. I just got a message from a Haitian, actually, from Haiti, inside of Haiti. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm reading as I'm talking to you. The situation there has escalated. There are brothers and our sisters, and we are going to have someone on the show from Haiti, and also we have somebody from the International Court of Justice will be coming onto the program on Friday to speak about Haiti. I am being told that the Barbados is sending troops to Haiti. That's CBC News. Their headline says Barbados is sending troops to Haiti as part of a multinational force, right? So we're going to look into that a bit more on Friday, and we will have someone here that is dedicated to speaking about Haiti. We have a Haitian, we'll have somebody on the ground in Haiti, and we'll also have somebody from the ICJ. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Franklin. I can't see you. Yes, I'm seeing you. Mr. Franklin? Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, you hear me because we're having some issues.
Yes,
You
okay.
hear me, Marcia?
Yes, I'm hearing you now.
Good. Well, I just want to sum up basically, and it's best be what Glenn was saying, Kimara was saying, because my family in St. Lucia has substantial holdings and property. That's why I tell them if they run me go to St. Lucia, I can get a passport, live down there. They can farm the land. Well, my wife is entitled to part of it. However, they don't pay a single cent in land tax. Land tax is not known in St. Lucia. Land tax was devised in 1972, I think, to find a way for government to raise money to finance government's program. Now we have raised enough money to finance government program, but we waste it, and we keep going. So each time they do more and more, and what we need is less taxes and let the people earn their money. And I'm talking about also no about income tax. You should not be paying income tax either. You are taxing people for working. Now, when you do that, but of course, now what some administrations have done over the years, starting with our managers, to take people off the tax system. Barely, if you earn a certain amount of money, you don't pay taxes. But it should be all of them, and you should tax consumption. Where people, as opposed to, because if I have $5,000 income every month, my salary, you tax that. The government takes it from you. You can't spend $5,000. But if you are buying stuff with that $5,000, you tax the consumption. So, and then you would pay more taxes than the fellow at the bottom who has less. And you would achieve the same thing. Instead of giving us all these taxes. I remember when Arthur brought the value-added tax, he put together a whole set of taxes and said, well, okay, we're abolishing these and we're going to have the 15% VAT. But no, these taxes are coming back in. They're coming back in slowly by another name. You know, the water and sewage tax. The VAT and everything else we're supposed to be paying for them. So what happens now when you collect all this money, don't use it for the intended purposes, and then you come up and have individual taxes for water, you have individual taxes for every other possible thing. So you're putting back those set of taxes that Arthur got rid of in favor of VAT, because the VAT was supposed to be able to finance the government. We didn't need any more. As a matter of fact, the VAT was, when the experts did it, they said that 13% VAT would have been enough. But for some reason, Arthur wanted a cushion, and he put it at 15%. And now it is 17.5%. That is a lot of money to take away from people. Soon from now, what will happen? You will be working to pay taxes. Government has to stop this largesse. Many prime minister flying away with her, 67 people on her, whatever it is, going to the conferences and stuff. Those are taxpayers' dollars. Cut back on those. Attend things with diplomats. You have ambassadors in some countries, let them attend on your behalf. They can sign treaties for you. They can do all those things. But these people like flying about. Get rid of all these consultants and you will save money. You know, there was an old English saying, take care of the pennies and the pounds will take care of themselves. Well, this government has the attitude, well, it's my money, my personal money, so I can spend it. We need less reckless people in charge of our finances.
Yeah.
They're destroying this place. Good night, and I hopefully, with God willing, I will see you on Friday.
Yes, Friday will be a big day. Thank you all for contributing tonight. Miss Maxine McLean, thank you so much. We want to thank Mr. Glyne Murray for your contribution, very educational. Thank you, Kimar. Thank you, Caswell Franklin. And of course, we want to say thank you to our Trinidad guest that we had tonight, Mr. Ishmael, with that KFC boycott. Arrested 7 times, you know, and that was very inspiring. And also to Dr. Alleyne. Wow. Bajan standing up. I told you Bajan's not passive. They stood up, and those Mr. Mon, it was his name. He said, he showed them that cane. He was serious. So we want to thank them for coming, and we rejoice with them, and we're happy about what has happened to that village, that community. Good night, everybody. Thank you all for joining. Judith and Clark, Rachel Thornin, Paul Messiah. Oh my God, Remim, YouTube user, Hurricane Writer, Wapa, Dewdrop. Oh my goodness, this name, Diana Seeley, Marcia, Anika Hope, Hurricane Writer. There's so many of you. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you so much. God bless you. Bye-bye. We love you. Friday.
One by one, brick by brick, they crumble and fall. At the voice of the Almighty, and the trumpet call. Lies on corruption, and this administration. Lies on